Good afternoon, team. Welcome to the Osceola County School Board meeting for June 7th, 2022. I'm calling this meeting to order. Before we get started, I would ask you to please silence your phones while we conduct the business of the board. Welcome, everyone. Let's go ahead and stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. For our board today, we will, actually, you may not. We'll do the pledge. Tanya's going to go ahead and lead us on the pledge. Then we'll have a performance for the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can remain standing for the anthem. But Mr. Bass, you wanted to say
before we start, can we pause it for just a second? Before we start, I want everybody to stay standing though. I was so blessed to have been witness to so much talent in our district. The amount of talent that's woven into the fabric of our students at this district was unbelievable. Every graduation ceremony, they performed the national anthem, and it was performed by a choral group or an individual singer, and they were all as equally talented. But I have to reach out to, we have a special person, Brandon McCrae is the music director for Harmony, and the selection that he chose just blew me away. And I want to thank Positively Osceola. They recorded all the graduation ceremonies and all the performances. And this particular one that I'm telling you about, even though all of them were fantastic, and I don't want to take anything away, the arrangement for this particular one was unbelievable. And he took a chance by miking every one of the students too, which is even a bigger gamble because it doesn't leave much room for error. Positively Osceola filmed it, and it bounced around locally. People viewed it, and then it took off. So as of right now, I just checked, 768,000 people have viewed it. And nationwide, they have been making comments after comments after comments, and just beautiful, sincere comments. So I want to tell you that from now on, when I hear the national anthem, it's going to be gauged by the performance you're getting ready to hear. Now, that's me personally, but I'm maybe a little biased, but it was beautiful. So with that, I want to introduce the choral group for Harmony High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave
thank you folks for letting me, let Mr. Hickey be proud of him.
Thank you, Mr. Bass, that was beautiful. I'd like to introduce Ms. Tracy Shinowski, Principal of Thacker Elementary, to read our mission statement.
Good evening. We inspire all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible and productive citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Lastinia Peñalosa.
Good evening. I am Dr. Lastinia Peñalosa, and I'm here to provide translation services. My name is Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Lastinia Peñalosa. Estoy aquí para proveer servicios de interpretación. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Board, I will go ahead and defer to you for positive comments. Today, I will go ahead and start to my left with Mr. Arguello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank all the employees who have reached out to me with their concerns over the past couple of weeks. These have been some real great conversations, and it's an education every time. I want to let you know that you've been heard, and I appreciate your trust and confidence. I'd like to thank all 8,000 of our district employees for the dedicated and gargantuan efforts over the last year, and even before that, the year previously. It's hard to grasp the scope of all the things that have to be done and need to be accomplished for the district in order to make it through the year. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that, all your work. I'd like to thank Nutritional Services for the tour of their facilities and for spending so much time with me in one afternoon. Where is Miss Gordon over there? Over there. I learned more about school lunch than I would ever want to know. I tasted everything. I'm going to be honest, it's not the best food in the world, but it's not from lack of heart or soul or work by anyone in Nutritional Services. It's a tremendous amount of hard work. It's extremely and highly regulated, and I just wanted to really tell you how much I appreciate all of your guys' efforts and your team's efforts for what you do. There was no question that I asked that you guys could not answer. It really shows that you guys are really in the nooks and crannies of your jobs. You're paying attention to what's going on. You are not a mom and pop operation. You guys are very good, very well-versed professionals. And I'm very appreciative when you can go to someone, you have a conversation with them, and they have the knowledge on the tip of their tongue. It really, the love that you put into your job was really obvious, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate that. So for the community, I just want you to be assured that Ms. Gordon and her team of amazing people, they will continue to work hard to make sure that our kids are fed. There's a lot of limitations and complications and obstacles. They're very multifaceted, from federal legislation to lunch requirements. It's just, it's a tough job, and I appreciate you guys. That being said, I have faith that Ms. Gordon is going to continue to put her heart and soul into ensuring that our kids are eating, not just eating, but eating well, you know, to the best of our ability as a school district. So I still have some more questions. I'd love to learn more, and I'm sure that we'll continue to have dialogue in the near future. And if you're a parent out there, and make sure that your kid is putting all the food on their plate. It's an important aspect for the district in terms of the operation of the nutritional services. I want to thank Ms. Martinez for having a great conversation with me, which prepared me for an agenda item this evening. I caught her off guard, but like a true professional, again, she was really knowledgeable, very composed, extremely articulate when it came to her job and the needs of her department, and just knowledge on this matter, and I was very appreciative of that. And then there's a group of ladies who were at the Education Expo, as was Ms. Martinez, this past weekend. I lost my slip with everyone's name. I wanted to mention them by name. Please forgive me. But you know who you are. You guys do a great job for the district. You represented us so well this weekend, so professionally. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. And I also want to thank you for being a tremendous asset for the school district and the great conversation that we had. Obviously, the more people that I meet on the inside of our school district, the more employees, the more you learn about the culture and what they think. And not everything that is obvious from up here is obvious in the middle, and not everything that's obvious in the middle is obvious to the people up here. So those relationships are invaluable to me, and I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arguello. Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, graduation ceremonies are obviously my favorite time of year. Kind of going out there and seeing the students and the parents, super excited about everything they've done from the beginning to the end. Congratulations to Toho. I think it's the first graduating class that started from freshman year to freshman to senior year. Then somebody corrected me to go, well, Eastlake too, because Eastlake was a brand new school that was a feeder school. So for some students, they literally went from Eastlake all the way down to Toho and had that first combined cohorts together. And we were keeping tally. I think there were 2 valedictorians that were twins. Unbelievable. 2 different schools had twins who were the valedictorian and salutatorian at each one of their respective
The girls
schools.
rock.
Yes, and the girls
the
were
girls took it away.
even close. Yes. And so, in between ceremonies, I'd go to staff and I would shake their hands too, because I told them, look, everybody's congratulating the seniors, but if it wasn't for staff going out there and working hard and making it happen, that they wouldn't have seniors graduating. So I just wanted to thank every one of the staff members that worked hard throughout the whole year to make that happen. And also, my son graduated, well, no, it's not graduating, it's promotion ceremony from elementary school. So he went from 5th grade to the 6th grade. And I also want to honor the fact that I saw other schools do that, and we don't really mandate that, we kind of let them do that, but I think they felt special. The fact that, they had like the little award ceremonies, because I know we have the big carrot at the very end when they graduate their senior year, but sometimes it's nice to give students milestones to achieve and show them what graduation looks like. And so the fact that my elementary school, and I know others did it too, because I saw it on Facebook, had little promotion ceremonies and give away awards, it really made them feel good. I'll tell you right now, because my son was like, oh, he wanted to show me and his mom and everybody, look what he did. And to me, that's what it's about. When you can get kids excited about school and accomplishment of school, I'm all for that every day of the week. And the other thing too that I acknowledged, and this will be my last item, it's kind of like what Mr. Osceola alluded to earlier. When I started visiting the elementary schools again, the pandemic hit hard everybody. I understand that. But some people forget that the 2nd grade especially, they never saw anything different. So when they were in kindergarten, the pandemic first hit, and some of them may have stayed home. So in the 2nd grade, they came through and they never even saw, you forget how much facial expressions are when you see somebody, and dealing with all the behavioral issues and the social emotional issues. So it's not just about academically catching them up, because they may have been homeschooled for so long, but they had to get their behavior under control. And I didn't realize how bad it was. Because I sit on the expulsion hearings, but you mainly hear about the high schoolers and middle schoolers. You don't get too many elementary school cases bubble up. So I thought, oh, everything in elementary school was great. And they're like, no, Mr. Melendez, our elementary school teachers had to deal with a lot this year, getting these kids how to learn how to behave, number 1, and then learn, number 2. So my hat's off to every elementary school teacher that had to deal with that this year. I can't really apologize for the pandemic because it happened, but what I can do is congratulate your response to the pandemic and the fact that you guys were professionals day in and day out. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Thacker? Thank you. Mr. Bass?
I follow these 2 to my left. So I actually did, I want to thank Judy, I want to thank you. Judy or Judith? I never asked you that. Either one? Either one. I did the food services tour as well. I came hungry, so I thought the food was great, but I understand that they really laid everything out for us, but thank you for what you do and all of your staff. It was just unbelievable to feed a small city, well, a medium-sized city every day, breakfast and lunch. It's got to be very challenging. I don't know if I mentioned it last meeting, but it made me think about, you had mentioned Toho and Eastlake Elementary right next door, and Principal Hennessy at Eastlake invited me, and it was really really cool to watch these. Mr. Principal Arscott with Tohoku High School had every one of his graduating seniors in cap and gown walk the sidewalk over to the elementary school, and Mr. Hennessy had every one of his students stand out in front of their doors, and the seniors walked the entire school high-fiving all these, and it was really cool to participate. And you see these little kids that are first and second grade looking up, and like you had mentioned, these kids that were graduating, they went to first grade at that school, so it was a full cycle. Great to watch. Got a great invite to the Neptune Middle School gym that's been dedicated to Judy Arnold for her years of dedicated service. I was able to attend that, and I really appreciated that. Over the last couple of meetings, I have mentioned about wanting to start a mentor program because I was part of a mentor program at St. Cloud Middle School years and years ago. And as I was searching around on how have it start up, we have a teacher who is already, and I don't want to go into too great details because her and I are still working out the details. She has already started an internal mentor program that I'm going to pick her brain and piggyback on that, because I think if we can reach out to that 10% that's creating 90% of the referrals, if we can reach out to that group of students and maybe help square their shoulders up and help them, because I think there's a lot of those kids are just lost and they don't have, they're being raised by their siblings. I have one little girl that's being raised by her sister because her mother passed away. And it's just not the best environment. So if we collectively can each one of us in this room reach out and become a mentor and help square some of these shoulders up with some of these kids. We saw what happened in Texas, and maybe, just maybe, we can eliminate some of that, maybe. So we'll do the best. While I'm here, that's going to be my project for the remainder of time I'm on the board. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Dr. Pace?
Nothing, ma'am.
Thank you. I would echo what everyone already said, specifically with the graduation. I did get to see my daughter graduate. That was a very special moment. Thank you for capturing that, by the way. And I also attended the Celebration K 25th anniversary. Mr. Thorne was there. That was a fun presentation, so that was great to see. Great comments. Dr. Pace, I will go ahead and defer to you regarding the appointments and transfers. And
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Is it okay?
1 second. Do we have to make a motion to let her attend the meeting virtually? No. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Pace. I apologize for that.
No problem. If I could at this time invite Dr. LaTanya Harris to the podium. Board members and members of the community, I am honored tonight to bring forward for a recommendation to be the new principal at Liberty High School, Dr. LaTanya Harris. She has been a teacher in Orange County Public Schools since in 1995, a teacher, curriculum coach, assistant principal for curriculum and principal in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, principal for Charter Schools USA, principal of Bridge Prep Academy of Osceola, and currently serves as the assistant principal at Harmony High School. She received her bachelor's degree in psychology from Florida State University and both a master's degree and a doctorate degree in educational leadership from Nova Southeastern University. Dr. Harris brings passion and pride and a true love for the Poinciana community. She also bakes really well, and I think she will just be a fabulous addition to the Charter community.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Congratulations. Did you bring us cake?
To the Honorable Chair and the school board members of the School District of Osceola County, Dr. Pace and Dr. Evans, thank you for providing me with this opportunity to serve as the principal of Liberty High School. To Mr. Hickey and my Longhorn family, I extend my sincerest appreciation as I leave with a bond that is truly second to none. And to my Charter family, serving as the principal of Liberty High School is a great honor, and I look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Good luck.
Now, Madam Chair, if I could invite Valerie Martinez to the podium. As Valerie is stepping forward, I would also like to take this moment to recognize Ms. Tracy Shinuski. Tracy, would you stand? Ms. Shinuski has been a dedicated teacher, employee, and principal here in our school district, and we hate to see her go, but she has another opportunity to take on a district level position as the Director of Special Programs in Franklin County up in the Panhandle. The good news is Tracy's going to let her husband stick around and continue in our maintenance team for a while, but we certainly want to take this opportunity to thank Tracy for her commitment, service, and dedication, and wish her the best in her new endeavor. Thank you, Tracy. And now, board members, I am so honored tonight to recommend to be the next principal at Thacker Avenue Elementary School for International Studies, Ms. Valerie Martinez. Valerie has been a teacher at Gateway High School, an ESOL educational specialist at Neptune Middle, Title III ESOL Resource Specialist for Math and Science for the Osceola School District, Secondary Science Curriculum Specialist for the Osceola School District, Teacher at Parkway Middle, Science Teacher at Neptune Middle, District ESOL Educational Specialist. For a brief period of time, she lost her mind and worked in Orange County Public Schools. But then she found her way back to us to serve as our coordinator to the Multicultural Curriculum Instruction and Compliance Department, and has been serving as the assistant principal for Thacker Avenue Elementary School for International Studies since 2019. Valerie received her bachelor's degree in molecular microbiology from the University of Central Florida and a master's degree in educational leadership from National Louis University. She has a vision for bringing international baccalaureate studies back to life at Thacker Avenue, and I am confident she will do a great job with your approval board.
Motion to approve.
Second, with a comment?
Lots of people wanting to approve this. Motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Melendez with comments. Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, I just wanted to show that, Ms. Martinez, what you're doing is phenomenal. And the fact that I want the school district to know and everyone around you that there is no glass ceiling. The fact that you're an assistant principal at the school and we're rewarding you, because a lot of times it's easy to rotate folks from different schools. But when you do a great job and you won over the culture of the school, that they want you to be the leader of the school, I think that's a testament to you and also a testament to others that they can follow your role model and say, hey, I can do this school as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the school board, Dr. Pace, Mr. Flowers, Dr. Reyes, for this great opportunity. I am honored to be entrusted with the future of Thacker Avenue Elementary School for International Studies and to be able to continue to support our community, our students, our families, and my staff. Who would have thought? I've been here since 1989 as an English language learner that I will be standing here today leading one of our schools. I am proud to also be a product of Osceola County Public Schools and a graduate of Gateway High School. Go Panthers! I would also like to thank Ms. Shinuski for her guidance and leadership. I've learned a lot these past 2 years under her leadership. Ms. De La Fuentes is also here tonight for believing in me over 10 years ago, which is the reason why I decided to get my master's. I'd also like to thank my husband for his immense support throughout this journey and for continuing to always push me further every day, even when it gets hard. To my mom, who's watching with my kids, for always being my biggest cheerleader, and my amazing kids for being patient with me because mommy has to work late. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Here, members of the board, I'd like to invite Mr. Lonnie Howard to the podium, please. Mr. Howard has been a teacher and literacy coach at Westside K-8 and St. Cloud Middle School. He's been an academic coach at Winter Springs Elementary and currently serves as the dean and testing coordinator at St. Cloud Middle. He received his bachelor's degree in elementary education from Arizona State University and a master's degree in educational leadership from American College of Education. And we think he will be a fantastic addition to the leadership team as an assistant principal at Dinjon Middle School. Mr. Howard.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you, members of the board, Dr. Pace, Dr. Allen, for this honor and privilege. I also want to thank my family for their support, as well as some of my outstanding principals that I've had that have supported me. Ms. Harrell that's here, Ms. Roush as well, for supporting me. And also, being a prior military in the United States Coast Guard, I have a mentor, Chief Sparks, who's been a mentor that kind of guided me and helped my leadership, and I just want to say a shout out to her as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
And finally, board members, I have a transfer and a return from leave of absence to recommend. Daniel Perlazzo, currently the assistant principal at Dinjon, to become an assistant principal at Bella Lago Academy. And returning from leave of absence, Mr. Henry Hoyle, currently the principal at Dinjon, to become the assistant principal at Harmony High School with your approval board.
Nice.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Arguello. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Pace.
Thank you.
If you are very interested in getting a masterclass in board business, you are welcome to stay. But if you came here just to support some folks, this would be a great time to go ahead and recuse yourself. I will give you about 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Oh, I forgot to mention the Osceola Sports Grant.
All right, as we have people moving out or in, I'm going to go ahead and ask for the agenda modifications. Board, if you don't mind, I will go ahead and start today. I am going to pull item 12.03 from consent agenda and move it into informational items. We are not meant to vote on anything, that's just an information item. I would also like to add the choosing of the FSBA Advocacy Committee member under new business. And as you know, we do have a blue sheeted item for the Teamsters tentative contract, and we will go ahead and put that under the regular human resources agenda. And I will go ahead and start to my right, Mr. Bass.
Good. I had a lot of questions, and they were all answered prior to, so I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
That's good.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, item number 6.04, pull it from consent. Item 6.06. Item 7.01. And item 9.10.
Are any of these material to your vote, or you just have discussion?
No, they are material to, they could be material to the vote, but they
Got
are
it.
discussion as well. I mean, it depends on how the discussion goes.
Sure.
Except for 9.10, that's not a votable item, but that's just.
Informational?
Yes.
Did you include any regular items in there?
Yeah, for new business, I would like to discuss a management dashboard, and I'll discuss that later. But just, I had discussion with staff today about the management dashboard.
Thank you. Mr. Arguello?
Yes, I'd like to pull 7.02, 7.04, 10.01, 10.03 from consent. And I have discussion on 15.01, 15.02, 16.05, 16.12, and 18.04.
Those on the regular.
Yeah, that's fine. Try to do them all at the same time. Can you repeat any items after 15.02?
1605,
Okay.
1612, 1804.
Okay, so to information, we are putting items 6.04, 6.06, 701, 702, 704, 910, 1001, 1003 from consent. We are also pulling 1501, 1502, 1605, 1612, 1804 from regular agenda, and we are adding a management dashboard to new business. Did I miss anything?
Just got a little confused.
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Are we making a motion? Then I can ask my question.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I will make that motion, as the chairman stated.
Have a motion by Mr. Thacker and a second by Mr. Bass with discussion by Mr. Thacker.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Arguello, I got 5 items. You just want to not vote? I've got confused. Are you removing them from the agenda, or you just want to talk about them when we get there? So they're not in the group vote?
So the consent items, I'm pulling them from consent.
Yeah, consent, I guess. I'm fine. It was the 15.01.
And the regular items, I'm just, so that someone doesn't go to, like, for example, to 1509 and motion without discussion.
Gotcha. Okay. I just didn't know, I wasn't sure what you.
Okay,
I believe
so
so.
we're voting on these individually.
Okay.
Understood? Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Board, what's your pleasure? I'll make.
Aye.
Aye. Right, I don't know. Motion passes unanimously. Consent agenda approved. We'll go ahead and move over to 6.04. Mr. Melendez, you have a question or comment on that?
Yes. One of them was, I guess Dr. Pace is here, and Dr. Reyes was showing me some of the Power BI management dashboard a little bit earlier, which I'll talk about in the business. When I see Illuminate Education, they talk about MTSS management tool. So I'm trying to get confused. What's the difference between Power BI and MTSS? And I fell in love with Power BI, and I want to talk about it later on. And I found about this, and I'm like, wait a second, is this like a parallel universe that we're living in? And what does one do that the other one doesn't do? And so I just want clarification about what the limitations of what the software is and what is it that they bring to the table.
Dr. Torres stayed just for that. There she is.
Yay! She did an excellent job today, so.
Hello. So you had a question about the difference between Power BI and EduClimber?
Yes.
So Power BI, as you saw today, gives us the ability to look at the global and not drill down to the student level, whereas EduClimber will give the schools the ability to drill down to look at what the interventions are doing. So for MTSS, some students have behavior modifications and behavior interventions. So they actually have pictures of the students if we want to upload them and say these students need to be tracked for behavior and have the behavior tracking system. These students need to have word recognition. And it will help with attendance, especially at the elementary school, because the older schools for middle and high school have actual intensive reading classes, but the elementary schools have a session called Triple I time. And in that Triple I time, it's really flexible grouping. And so a student can need word recognition, have one intervention, it's not working, go to another intervention, and we can track to see what's working and not working on an individual level with each student. So Power BI doesn't give us that, that's more of the global, and EduClimber will really let us drill down school by school, student by student.
Does it have the ability to go into truancy? Because we've talked about that recently, that there's been a lot of students not coming to school. And, we know the state statute was too broad, where there was too many absences, or they considered tardy to be like 4 hours, and 4 hours in us is like half a school day. And are we able to integrate, attendance data into that and trigger like truancy letters to go out earlier? Or is this not capable of merging those two functions together?
We absolutely can. We can pull whatever's in focus. So we could look at the high school and have flags pop up and say this student has a flag, this student has also an early warning for referrals. We could look at grades and how they're all impacted together and start having forms populated within the system. So it's really, we get to choose what we want to look at and pull it all out of focus, pull it all out of school city, and have it grouped together for us to flag as we see will.
Awesome. I guess I'll set up another meeting with you on just that alone. I know that existed, so.
Yes.
That'll be all my questions. I don't want to dominate too much time.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Arguello has a question as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to pull this also for a similar reason. I thought it was redundant. But at the same time, is there any way, and Dr. Pace, maybe this is a question for you, can I get a username or access to the system so that I can look through the system?
We certainly will look into that, Mr. Arguello. I will have to work with Dr. Torres and Dr. Maddock on the way the contract reads, but I don't see why not.
Well, it was like unlimited license.
Yet. This is a new contract.
Yeah. All right, it would be just like another username person, right? So I can log in and look at district information that it would tell anybody else, right? It's unlimited licensing.
Yes, but you don't have students. So we would have to probably sit with you, like I don't have students, so I'll see the district level and drill in. Whereas a school and a teacher will see school level, teacher level, period level. So it will look slightly different for a district level employee than it would for a school-based employee. And
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, the district level is really all, right? Maybe I wouldn't even know what to do with anything else. So, that would be great. So that was one thing. It does seem kind of redundant. Now, he asked a question already for me, so there's no way that this could be collapsed, like they couldn't add, it just seems like a lot that there's additional services in this contract that, it does seem kind of redundant regardless, right? Like there's a lot of similar features here.
Not in the case of MTSS work. We currently don't have MTSS software that drills down to the student level with attendance in that format. So when we're talking about the visualizations like Power BI, that's all based on the data that's put in and on FERPA rules. And so it's not a one-to-one ratio, if that makes sense. So what you see in Power BI and what the school sees in Power BI is really global and doesn't get to the school level student, whereas something like this will give schools like, okay, this is how this class is doing, but this is how this student is doing, and this is what's working for this student, and this is what isn't working for this student. And we really don't have anything like that right now.
And would there be users that you would use both systems?
Administrators normally look at Power BI. Some coaches will have access to Power BI, but really that's for more leadership conversations.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your answers.
Wait, I do have one question perhaps for Mr. Thorne. Isn't Power BI part of Office 365, so we're paying for that regardless? We're just
I was gonna
choosing to
mention that.
leverage it for additional?
We use Power BI for other applications inside the district too, for other dashboards. So they're using it specifically though in REA for what they're showing.
Right, I'm assuming other departments can use Power BI and leverage it for their purposes as well?
It is part of our Office 365 A5 licensing.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez?
Oh, well, that was great. You just generated another question. So we don't have to pay a separate license, like say if facilities uses Power BI to manage their systems or something like that?
That is correct.
Because we were talking about that earlier. Okay, I'm gonna hit you up again.
Okay.
Because I was looking at the full dashboard of a school, not just the academic component. I was looking at facilities, and she was saying the facilities information system doesn't necessarily, feed into the academic side. But I would like to look at a full snapshot of a school and say, okay, how are they performing in school? But then also how are they performing in the facilities too? If they did a work order to paint the wall, are they waiting a year, waiting 2 years, waiting 3 years? Are they in queue for secure lobby? How long has it been? So I kind of want like a full health, not health, that's the wrong word. But I want to look at the full snapshot of how a particular school is functioning on all cylinders, not just, academic.
As long as we have a data source, we can analyze that data with that tool.
Okay, we'll talk about that during the strategic meeting. And then the last few items are more for the attorney. I know that we discussed it a little bit here, but I just felt a little bit uncomfortable, and I just want to make sure we're clear on that. We had some boilerplate language, which means like, we have like governing law. I'm looking at taxes. And when I look at items 605 and 604 that are similar type contracts, but the languages are different. Like on 605, one of them says, the school board is not obligated and does not agree to pay taxes. And then another sentence here has like a whole long sentence about taxes. And then one on governing law, one that says, hey, it's going to be state of Florida. And I see another one that says governing law and venue, the middle district of this port, that port. And I know those are like small little technicalities. I just want to make sure that, that we're trying to be consistent with some of these bullet point languages. So in case anything ever happens in the future, that we know, okay, only the terms and conditions are changing, not like things like taxes and governing law and venue and things like that. So that has nothing to do with you, man. Even though you're up on the podium. But it's more of a legal question. I just want legal consistency.
Madam Chair, they are all legally consistent. They may be written differently. For example, we will be dealing with a national company, and their attorney will say, we want venue in California, which means if there's a lawsuit, it's got to be in California. I will say we're not agreeing to that. They'll talk, and then I'll finally say to them, okay, why don't we just leave it blank? And I've had them say to me, that's great, I don't have to explain that to anyone. Now, the reason I do that is because Florida law says the only place we can be sued is in Osceola County or in federal court, the Middle District of Florida, which has jurisdiction in federal cases over our area. So all the language is always intended to protect this district, and they're all consistent. They may be reading different here and there. We start with our boilerplate contract when it's a bid, work off of that. Sometimes, if there's not a bid, we get a draft contract from the other side, and they're adamant they want to work off that. There are some overriding principles. We never pay taxes, number one. Number two, we always have the ability to terminate. In fact, today I took the position and told one of the companies that we were dealing with that if they teach critical race theory, there is no cure period. We can immediately terminate them. We're not going to play, cat and mouse, we caught you, et cetera. So they are very consistent. I can explain any differences, but they're always intended to drive the same exact resolution to the issue.
Motion approved. Item 6.04.
Motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. 6.06.
Yeah, this is the management agreement with the Education Foundation for Valle Lago. And I was just kind of confused with the different fee structures. There was like 3 sets of fees. So I was having trouble getting in front of, what is the total fees? Because a lot of times, I sit on the Four Corners Charter Board, and there's a management fee as a line item, just 10% or whatever that management fee is. And I was just a little bit confused, do they have a management fee? I was trying to read it, and I didn't quite understand it, and there was operational fees, but that fees, but this fees, and so I just want some clarity of how much we're paying them, and the purpose of that is so I can compare it, If I'm paying the Education Foundation to manage the charter, what are they relative to somebody else to do it? You know what I mean? That way we can know that, hey, the Education Foundation's only charging us, a total of aggregate fees of, say, 6%. Everybody else is charging us an aggregate of 10, then, we got a great deal, then that's no problem. But it's hard for me to compare it's hard to compare when I don't know what the total fee is.
Madam Chair, as I'm looking at the contract, and this is a business issue, but I know paragraph 27 provides they'll receive $50,000 per year to compensate for their time and expense of overseeing the school and the administrator, with such amount adjusted upwards yearly by the Consumer Price Index. So that is one fee that is identified in the contract.
Yeah, that's one, but there's foundation expenses too, which means the fees and expenses of the annual budget. And if nobody knows the answer, then I'm okay with that and saying, okay, let's TP this vote until we get an idea of what the fees are. We shouldn't be calculating it on the dais.
Right.
So I'm okay with, if that's okay, then, I'm a TP item number 6.05 until they can come up, or 6.06, until they can actually tell us what the aggregate fees are. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Arguello, you had a comment as well?
I had pulled the same item for the same reason, because the fees, having seen some of these contracts, I didn't recognize some of the language here in terms of being able to identify what the fees were. So, thank you, you guys already resolved that issue by TP.
So we're making a motion to table this item?
Yes. With staff coming back to us at the next meeting with just an explanation of what the different fees are associated with the management contract. Kind of itemizing just the fees.
When's our next school board meeting?
12th of July.
Madam Chairman, just so I can put it on the record, the agreement calls for a charter school operating account that will be within the school board's general operating account, and then the funds are all allocated and have to be spent the way the agreement calls for it. There are not dollars associated with the particular item. For example, warehouse, the school will be charged in the same manner as non-charter schools. Right? And so I think what Dr. Pace or Sarah Graber, if you're on, can explain, some of these expenses get approved later on because you don't know some of them. But ultimately, you have the ultimate control.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes. I'll go to Dr. Pace, and then Mr. Thacker has a comment or a question as well.
I apologize, Mr. Thacker, I didn't hear you. I just wanted to clarify that the $50,000 is what's represented as the management fee. And then other expenses are the typical school expenses, but rather than the district bearing the cost, for example, of the warehouse or our accounting services or those types of things, we're reimbursed through a fee structure so that the school's FTE covers those expenses. But if the board would prefer a full report at our next meeting, I certainly can have the finance team produce that.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. Mr. Thacker?
I think she just answered my question. Dr. Pace, there's not a time of the essence problem here. This is okay to wait 2 weeks.
Yes, sir. Our next meeting is still in the month of June, so it'll be before the fiscal year ends on June 30, so we're good.
So we all agree we're going to table item 6.06 for next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. 701, who did this one? I don't remember.
Oh, I did do something.
Oh, I apologize. I thought we have consensus, but we can do a,
Do we need to vote on the therapist too? I don't think so. I think we just
yeah, we can just table it. 7.01, Mr. Melendez.
Yeah, on this one, this is a software renewal, and I liked what we did on 704, where we sit there and said, what were the outcomes of it? Because a lot of times we experiment with new software to do things, whether to lower truancy, to increase graduation rates. Sometimes it's nice to know, is the software doing what it's supposed to do? And so, like, when I look at 704, it says high school engagement specifics, applications submitted to colleges, council recommendations, this and that. So when it comes to items like 701 and 702, before I feel comfortable saying, hey, let's give this software a renewal, I like to have some kind of scorecard that says, hey, it's accomplishing the mission. You know what I mean? And whatever those metrics are for that software, it's different. You know what I mean? So I'm not exactly sure exactly what Zello does. But I really, I'm almost envious of what we did on 704 and said, hey, these were some of the results. I'm okay with approving this to move forward, but just something from staff to do, that when they have software renewals, you know, and again, I'm just one board member, that's why I'm doing on the dais, and hopefully I get board approval, is to sit there and say, you know, I would like to have metrics assigned to software and seeing, is it meeting the needs of the district and it's an accomplishing goal? Because if not, then we have to really search for other alternatives.
And certainly, Mr. Melendez, I did provide those details to you for both the Core Connections contract and Discovery Education, but point noted that you'd like to see it in the agenda item recommendation.
Right. And this one is funded by the grant, correct? When I read 701 is the grant funding, right? So it says, yeah, American Rescue Act, right? So when that goes away, do we have a succession plan for, or, you know what I mean? Do we have a way to keep that going, or is it just going to go away completely once the grant funding eliminates? I guess that's for you, Dr. Pace. I'm just sorry, 'cause I don't see you here, so it's like, I'm sorry.
That is
You can't
something
see
that
my
will be
face.
evaluated on an ongoing basis as to the value of the software, the limitations of our budget, and if we continue the product or not. But we do annually evaluate both the usage and the outcomes in conjunction with our research and evaluation team.
Okay. Motion approved 701 is submitted.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Bass, and a comment by Mr. Arguello before we vote. Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, you just said music to my ears, Dr. Pace, that we actually analyze that on an annual basis. So there's no way, because that's kind of what I've been asking for a lot of these contracts is, how do we justify this cost? What are the results, and how do we see these results? I'd like to see the results as well. I was gonna pull the same item for the same purpose, along with some of these other ones. You mentioned Core Connections, which I'll save for the next item. It would just be, I think it would be better, not just for board members, but for the community to be able to go through with the results. When I looked at the results for 7.04, I was like, okay, I know why you put that there. You put that there because there was a free alternative. We've had the discussion. I asked, why are we paying for this when there's no free alternative? So you put here why you're paying for it, and trying to make the argument that we're paying for it because we would have gotten lesser results with the other one, right? That makes sense. So, I mean, why not do that with all of this just so that we immediately see? Because I've been asking for all of our contracts to be substantiated to ensure that we're getting something for the taxpayer dollar.
I will work with the team, sir, to make sure that we include those items on the agenda, and I will also forward to you the information that I gathered from Mr. Melendez regarding 7.01 and 7.02, as well as to the rest of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Pace. We have 7.03. 7.02 as well? Is it the same comment or something?
Yeah, but we gotta vote.
Oh, I apologize. So I have a motion by Melendez and Bass, and second by Bass.
Yes.
Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion pass, opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll move on to 7.02.
So 7.02, going along a similar discussion, except that 7.02, I was looking up these companies. I saw Discovery was actually the company that we all know as Discovery, providing educational information. That's all fine and good. When I got to Core Connections and I pull up their website, I mean, this is not just a critique on their website, it's a critique on, I mean, if these are companies that are serving a public entity, then you would assume that they would be communicating who they are, what they're selling, and so on and so forth. I mean, I would tell the members of the community, go look at Core Connections website, and you tell me if you can find out if you really think that this is worth the X amount of dollars that we're paying for training. It just, my first reaction, maybe I'm a little bit suspicious after, almost 2 years of being here, but I'd be like, this is not the right one. God bless you. So I'm very suspicious of this 7.02. I'm not going to vote for it. I mean, like I said, I would challenge everyone just to go to their website, and it just doesn't look kosher to me. Not that that's the judgment of this company or something. It's just it doesn't seem like it's substantiated, unlike some of these other companies that have. It seems like we're giving a lot of these contracts out to whomever, and sometimes whenever you have 500 contracts on one agenda and you go through all of them, you find one that doesn't smell like the other ones, and I think that that's the situation here.
Thank you, Mr. Arguello. Board, any other comments or discussion?
Without having empirical data, I can't go against it. The only thing I can say is moving forward, I want to start collecting data on how effective these programs are. So I'm going to support it for that reason. Until I get something that shows to the contrary, then the default was going to go to staff, having done their homework.
Is that a motion, Mr. Melendez?
Yes, I motion to approve 7.2.
I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Thacker. I do have a point of discussion. This is more for the board than for anybody else. All of the items that you are pulling, for good reason, by the way, because we want to have data, this is something that we should keep in mind when we're doing our strategic plan. So I know that we moved our strategic plan conversation today, but when we do have it, these are the kinds of things that we need to add to our plan. Previous boards didn't need to have this for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's not the way it was done. So if we want to move something or move the needle on the culture, this is a great conversation to have for our strategic planning sessions. So board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
We have, vote passes 4-1, thank you. The next item on the agenda that I have is 9.10, I don't remember.
7.04.
Oh, I
I'm sorry,
apologize, 7:04.
You did it by me, because I did 9.10, but the numerical order.
Sure, no problem, 7.04.
So 7.04 is Zello, and we kind of touched on this subject already, with the confirmed plan 79% or so on or whatever. So I'm wondering how much of these numbers, percentage-wise, is actually a COVID response or a reaction to the changes in the environment regarding COVID, circumstances regarding COVID, than they are actually this program. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I had a lot of recruiters from the service branches reach out to me and say that they were having troubles at some of our schools. So I thought that this was the most appropriate place for that, because it seems like this is a competing thing. Also, this number is being impacted, I imagine, by the fact that we're giving free tuition for everyone to go to Valencia. Well, not we, but the county, or the federal government. So I would assume that we're going to get with it, we should be much higher than 2%, because unless it was prior to COVID and prior to us giving free tuition to Valencia, that it would have been 50% or something like that. I think that would have been more credible information than what we're seeing here. Although I do appreciate the fact that you put it on here and it's something.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
I move for approval. 7.04.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Bass. support, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. Now we'll go to 9.10. That was you, Mr. Melendez?
Yes, these were some of the budget amendments, and to me, they're somewhat related to some of the issues that we have, when we negotiate with our different unions. We got a bunch of different bargaining units. But one issue that has me a little bit confused is when I look at the general fund, right, and it says in the summary that the estimated revenue decreased by $166,000 because one thing went down and one thing went up. OTEC, I believe, was the reason they justified it, that the tuition at OTEC wasn't what they expected for some reason, and anyway, so that's what the bulk of the 166 comes from, right? Because it's 189 at OTEC and something else went up. So basically, we had to adjust down $166,000. And to me, this is a philosophical issue too. When you head over to the next page, I was expecting a simple 166 down. But we didn't get a simple 166 down. We got a whole gyration of like 12 different categoricals that were changing to give us a net effect of negative 166. And one of them is the instructional category of line item 5,000 even, which I kind of confirmed that the $407 million is, part of that is instructional salaries. So instructional salary pop went down $857,000. So this is money that was left to negotiate for more money, when instructional teachers and ESPs and everyone goes, I want more money. Well, we had $857,000 in this pot that they could have tapped into. And I guess they didn't know about it or nobody knew about it, but obviously the district didn't need it because we just deducted down $857,000 when all we needed to do was save $166,000. So we ended up increasing and decreasing in like 8-9 different categoricals. So technically speaking, money is fungible, but I was almost confused too. I thought we couldn't take money from one pot of money to the other.
That's what we're doing here is approving.
Correct, but I don't approve of that though. I don't approve of us moving money from, like for instance, if OTEC went down, and this is where the philosophy comes from, and the rest of the board can disagree with me, that's fine. If OTEC revenues had to go down, I like to keep it as close to the source as possible. So like say for instance, the transportation was super great in saving money, right? Then, or we had to reduce money, for the allocation was less, then I think they should get that money back themselves. The money shouldn't go from transportation to somewhere else to go, oh, let me increase your allocation, like someone else gets the benefit of somebody reducing down the cost. I don't think it should be that way. Again, that's just philosophical. I like to reward the department that's working hard, because that also means that, like for instance, like pupil personnel services went up $161,000. Well, why wasn't it allocated in the first place? Why are we making a budget amendment and increasing it mid-cycle?
Projections.
Correct. I know those are projections, but those got adjusted now. And so to me, those are the philosophical things. The point is that we shouldn't have taken away that much money from instruction, because that, I believe in paying my instructors and my ESPs as much money as possible that we have. And when I tell my ESPs I have no money, I want to really not have money. I don't want to have $850,000 that I can change and tell the ESPs that don't have money.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if I could provide some clarification there. Mr. Melendez, I sent an email to you from Mr. Gonzalez, Jose, our Director of Budget. You may have missed it, but that $857,000 in March as an instructional decrease is actually money that went out in the form of the supplements that we paid, the $500 supplements that the board awarded to employees in March. Remember, those were funds that were not budgeted. They were saved as a result of lapse, but that actually represents money that went to our employees in terms of those $500 supplements. And I'm happy to schedule time with Mr. Gonzalez and Sarah when they get back from the national conference so that we can kind of go over this process.
Wait, here,
But it's really
let me
about
stand
a
for,
truly
let me correct that, Dr. Pace, and I hate to do that. But when I read this document, it says current budget and revised budget. What you're talking about being spent is called appropriations. When something gets appropriated, this doesn't show as an expenditure. It shows that the budget was revised. So I'd be careful, Dr. Pace, to call this as money spent when it's a different trade. It was an adjustment of a budget. An adjustment of a budget does not mean that the money was spent. I just want to make that clarification, because I did get that email, and I didn't understand that email. It didn't make sense. Because when you adjust, it says current budget and revised budget. It means that you just revised the budget. It doesn't necessarily mean that the money was actually spent and like checks were moved. We just adjusted how much money we budgeted.
Perhaps when is our next finance workshop? If we know.
Next board meeting, ma'am.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have the budget workshop on at the next board.
Yeah, maybe we need to better understand how to read this, because the way I'm reading it is exactly that. It is an appropriation. That is exactly what the line item says. I know what that says. Current budget, meaning that is what we thought the projection was going to be versus what actually happened. That is how I'm reading it.
No, that's not what actually happened. Revised is we're making a budget amendment. This is technically an amendment, so revised means that we're amending what we thought. We forecasted
Right,
incorrectly.
so we made a
We're
forecast.
adjusting the forecast.
We have new numbers based on what is currently happening, so we're revising that. And so that's a change. I don't really see, perhaps I'm not understanding, I don't see the disconnect, but I'm glad that you're bringing this up because
The disconnect is just, and this is good, and this is a healthy discussion.
Sure.
Is we needed to revise the budget only 166 because OTEC money went down 166. We didn't just deduct it 166. It was a net 166. 8 different categoricals got adjusted in the budget in order to achieve the 166, as opposed to just deducting 166 from somewhere, or deducting 166 from multiple categories. Because you're right, you know what I mean? Because maybe it's a shared sacrifice. Maybe one categorical doesn't contribute the whole 166 that we need to save. You contribute it out. But here, it wasn't just contributing out. Some people gained. Matter of fact, there's more black ink than red ink. So more people got increases in their budget allocation than decreases, when the goal of the exercise at the beginning was to decrease.
I understand
And
exactly
so
what
it's
you're
just
saying.
confusing. It's like a shell game. It's like
Yeah.
bouncing back and forth.
We may need to have like a conversation about it. The way I see it is that first page that you're referring to is basically giving us an executive summary, and the next page gives us exactly where the funds were being moved. So that's the way I interpret it.
Right.
That's the way that it's been, when I've sat down to talk to people, that's the way that I read it. But, we can definitely appreciate a
I made
further
my point.
conversation.
I made my point.
Absolutely. Mr. Thacker?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you so much. So what is your pleasure on this item?
Is it a votable item or is it informational?
We are,
Oh, it's a votable.
we're
Okay.
approving
I'll make a
the,
motion to approve
Motion.
the budget amendment.
Second.
by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like signs. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. The next item that I have, okay, so we're moving, give me 1 second, team. We did have a couple of things move around.
10:01, I believe.
10-1 and 10-3.
Okay, 10:01, was that you, Mr. Melendez, or Mr. Arguello? I don't remember.
It wasn't.
Thank you.
So this is Gaggle. So I had a member of the community ask me if this was put up to bid, which I imagine it was. Dr. Pace?
This is a contract extension, sir. I would have to go back to check. Mr. Thorne, do you happen to know?
I would have to look back. I believe it was.
You mean the original contract award? Yeah, not the amendment, because usually we don't bid out amendments.
I'd have to look, I don't remember.
Okay.
Right. With the original contract, we had an option to extend.
Yeah, okay. So, to my comments, in Gaggle, even in this, just in the sheet for the agenda, it says the Gaggle ensures the safety of students through early warning detection of self-harm, drug or alcohol use, cyberbullying, pornography, and other harmful situations. So one, pornography. Can you tell me how they define pornography? And would some of the books that we've had parents come and address to the district qualify? Like, how are they qualifying these terms? And how do we know that it's not a contextual thing versus a is what it is thing? Because we might have different systems in place protecting our students that have different levels of protection. One which is less nuanced or maybe less subjective, and some which are maybe more clear. So if we're having trouble trying to decipher what pornography means in our libraries, how do we know that Gaggle is not having the same trouble?
I can respond to that, Dr. Pace, if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Thorne.
Yes, ma'am. So first we have to define what Gaggle's looking at. So it's looking specifically at, it's looking at email.
They can't hear you.
Okay, so Gaggle's looking at email. It's a software tool, and it's based on machine language as well as human input. So it's looking at our email system, looking at what students may be sending back and forth to each other. It also looks at Office 365, specifically our OneDrive, where students can store documents up in the cloud. So it's looking at that. And then some of our classes use Teams, so it's looking at chat that may be going on inside of Teams. So that's all that Gaggle's looking at currently. There are add-ons to allow you to look at Canvas, but we're not quite ready to use that yet. So to answer your question, it makes a determination using machine language or artificial intelligence to make a determination. Then a human looks at it, makes a determination, and then notifies the district through an email to various members of the staff. And then we then follow up on it. So Gaggle's not saying, hey, you need to look at this right away. It's telling us that we need to review it. So and there's 3 levels of what Gaggle looks at. There's questionable content, which is kind of like a warning, and I'm only going to talk about 2 of them. So questionable content, and then there's a higher one called possible student situation. And those are what's called red flagged, and those are the ones we look at immediately. So and typically it revolves around suicide, and it's looking for key phrases in documents and emails where students may be talking about suicide. So that's really what.
So we have one that protects kids from self-harm, right? That will raise a flag.
Yes.
The other one is asking, basically looking for language of some sort, right?
Language, yes. So it looks for self-harm, it looks for sexual content, very specific sexual content, it looks for nudity. So it does have the ability, the machine language, to look at images.
Right.
So it's scanning images.
So here's what I'm thinking. So obviously there's coders that come, somebody comes up with a project, they tell the coders, we want you to screen out pornography from this or to send a notification that they're looking at pornography, right? So whoever told the coders how to define pornography is really the question I'm trying to get answered. Because we should be answering that question across the entire district in the same manner, right? That's like a superintendent question, right? Like if we view pornography, for example, if someone were to scan one of our books and send it across our student system to another student, and it would flag a pornography, it would get a pornography hit, then that level of scrutiny would be higher than what we have in our libraries, right? That's just seems like a vulnerability to me.
I appreciate your point of view, Mr. Arguello. And based on what we talked about in our workshop, we are putting those kinds of reviews into place with our trained media specialists. And it's not necessarily pornography defined as much as it is questionable content. And then as Mr. Thorne shared, it goes beyond the machine intelligence to human review.
Right. But certainly pornography would be part of that questionable subject matter that we wouldn't want students, or is that okay in Osceola County? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, it's not okay.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to make sure that we get a clear answer here.
Peter, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Could you ask the company, could they give you how they define what would be cyberbullying, what would be pornography?
To be clear, it is looking for words. So when it sees a word that's on the objectionable list, that's when it notifies somebody. If it sees the word suicide or it reads the content and it suggests that the student may or may not be suicidal, either Peter or I get a personal phone call to go and check.
That's my point, right? So we have books that parents have read excerpts of, that I've read excerpts of, that would probably trigger them. Right? So that's my point.
So
Right.
here's an example.
So-
I'll give you an interesting example. So sometimes it encounters anime, okay? So that's very subjective. So it errs on the side of false positives.
Right.
Okay, so we don't want any false negatives because that would not be good because something would get missed. So it always errs on the side of over-reporting, I guess is a good definition for it. So that's why the machine part of it is not perfect. It's very subjective. So it's looking at every little thing it can. Because imagine we have hundreds of thousands, millions of emails a year coming through our system. So only a machine can really look at that stuff.
So,
Including documents and images and so on. So
So-
that's why the MI is part of it, the AI. And then we get involved if it actually happens to flag something.
So I know you're not saying this explicitly, right? But I also, for the sake of the community, clarity is important. There's stuff that a computer would say this is pornography. Then it would come to the district, and the district personnel would say, nah, this is okay, and let it go.
Not necessarily. It
Okay,
depends
so
on the
that's what I'm
level.
trying to see is the definition, what Mr. Carpenter was saying,
But I-
the definition of pornography, so that maybe it just seems this is pretty, it's relative, right? Whether it's pornography in our materials, whether it's pornography in books, or it's pornography they're watching movies, or whatever, I would imagine that pornography would have the same definition across the district so that we could prevent it. Or is it contextual, where you say you have a scene of pornography, but the rest of the movie's really sweet, so you go ahead and let the students have it, right? What I'm saying is that all of the rules that we have in place are not jiving with common sense, right?
This is dealing specifically with student safety and issues at the moment. So I will, Mr. Kruppenbacher, contact the vendor and find out what their definitions are.
I think actually it's more important that you get with Tom Phelps and the book people, what do we define it as? And so that our staff, who's ever looking at the red flag on pornography, is staying consistent with how we're dealing with it across the district.
You see
the staff can fix that. You guys just need to
But
talk.
this isn't looking at books, this is looking at the computer
So here's what I'm
system.
saying.
One second, let me have
Yeah.
Mr. Koppenbacher or Mr. Thorne please help me understand. Perhaps we're having a philosophical conversation that I'm interpreting as reality, but as far as I'm concerned, having looked at the website and understanding what, or at least trying to understand, because I think we had a conversation about this very issue. This is looking at content that students are looking at on their devices, is that correct? Not books in the
Not books, we're not talking
library.
about
We're not
books.
talking about.
Okay, because it sounded like we were
No.
talking about both of those
No.
things.
This is images
What it is,
that are being
to
shared.
the extent you get a flag identifying pornography, whoever is going to be the arbiter of whether or not it rises to that level needs to be consistent with our book people and their concept of what they're coming up with as pornography. Otherwise, we could arguably have one section of the district inconsistent with the other section of the district. That can be worked out at the staff level.
And right now, I think it's safe to say that the computer, right, is far more, it's a tighter net than what the library is right now. So right now, there's pornography in our libraries according to what our Gaggle would say. If Gaggle were to go and review our library, it would have a lot of pings. That's what I'm saying. So maybe we would want that policy to be district-wide, or that definition to be district-wide, and if you're gonna loosen what porn means, then I think that needs to be done.
I wouldn't agree it would have a lot of pings if it checked our libraries. I appreciate your opinion. All I'm saying is, let's keep our district very consistent so nobody comes under attack for a standard that is lower than what the board understands the standard is.
I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Arguello, but I respectfully disagree with you. So the system is designed to look at things in real time, and it cannot make a human judgment.
So let's do this then.
It's just looking at stuff.
Let's take excerpts from our book, and let's email them to each other, and let's see if any red flags come up.
But that is not
Right.
what Gaggle is supposed to be for. This is a safety management
So
product.
if kids are having a conversation with each other and they're using this language with each other, it would be inappropriate in our school systems. So if they're saying that to each other, right, it would bring a flag. If they were bringing in a video describing what the books are saying, it would raise a flag. So basically, right, some of the materials that we offer our students would raise a flag in Gaggle, which is designed to protect our kids from self-harm, ranging, according to them, right, it's a warning detection of self-harm, drug or alcohol abuse, cyberbullying, pornography, and other harmful situations, which is exactly, it's describing exactly what the community has come forward and complained about in the books.
So you're asking to put a fictional book into an AI program that's supposed to detect real self-harm? Is that what we're asking it to do?
Pornography is not a documentary. What I'm saying is right here. I mean, you can pretend not to understand.
No, I am not pretending to understand. I'm just trying to.
Well, then you can miss the point.
I'm not going to miss the point either. I'm just trying to understand why you are asking our IT department to put books that are fictional in a library into a system that is designed to help us understand whether or not students are going to self-harm, are using drugs, or are bullying each other into that program to determine what? That means there's two different items that we're talking about here.
No, it doesn't, because in the end, we have a duty to protect our students. So if the computer system that we use to protect our students from themselves is already telling you that this is potential self-harm, but then we provide them the materials to create self-harm, it just makes zero sense. So it's just about, it's fictional or otherwise. Fictional or otherwise. It makes no sense. I mean, that just makes fictional book.
I think.
I understand, Mr. Thorne, there's no need to go further, okay?
I'm just
I
going
get
to say
it.
one more thing. The computer is not the final arbiter here.
Right.
It's the human. So
Exactly.
I just want to be clear about that.
Yes, that's clear.
And I'm 100% clear on it, and I think I understand what he was saying, and Mr. Fromberger alluded to it earlier. It's not an IT issue, and Gaggle is a good program that knows how to just capture data. It's the humans that make that decision, and if the humans make the decision, that's what he's kind of talking about. So he's kind of like conflating two different things, but I understand where he's coming from, but it has nothing to do with Gaggle. Gaggle just needs to do its job and find stuff, and then us, as a board, defines if it finds something, if it's acceptable or not acceptable. And it's that simple.
Yes, and that's agreed.
And the other thing too is, I want to say, I like Gaggle. And when I did the SRO task force, law enforcement was also using Gaggle too. So, but, I don't want to give away too much security secrets, but, they would actually look for potential, threats and things like that. Some people would say things, those are also red flags. So it's not just suicide. It was something that in every SRO was familiar with Gaggle too. And they were using it as well. So not only staff was using it. So Gaggle's a heck of a tool for even law enforcement to get access to our students to know what's going on and kind of pre-plan attacks. And so Gaggle is phenomenal. I motion to pass it so we can get this moving forward.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Thacker, but I do have.
I just had a quick comment. That's just real quick.
I know, that's why I have to introduce
No, I
the
know,
motion as soon
I'm
as
just,
it's made.
yes, I know.
I have a comment, go ahead.
Peter, I assume Gaggle is ever evolving because when I was doing my homework on all of these programs, I reached out to the teachers across the nation and looked at the pros and the cons and the likes and dislikes. And most of the teachers were saying, and I'm just reading from one of them, said Gaggle is making it easier for administrators to be aware of high-risk situations. And they said, what you don't like, and what they didn't like is students may be aware of the monitoring. And the tiers of response can be unknown as well. So, I mean, my daughter comes home from college and she starts talking about, there's keywords that's in her comment. I'm like, what do you mean by that? So I just wonder if, I assume that this program is ever evolving probably on a daily basis.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah,
You have
people
other
use slang
systems.
words and code words.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
They can enter into it and they can look for those slang words in real
But the
time.
slang words change almost constantly.
We have other systems that also look at keywords also. It's not just Gaggle, there's other systems too.
So it's a very good program, and I approve of it. And I think we have a second as well.
Board, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. You also pulled 10.03.
Never mind, motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so consent agenda is approved. Informational items are included for your information. Remember that we did move 12.03 to informational items as well. We'll go ahead and move over to item 14.01.
Move approval 14.01.
Motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor?
Discussion?
Okay. Discussion by Mr. Melendez, yes.
I attended the school safety committee, and some school staff members had some issues about the implementation of it. So, and what we mean by that is in lieu of expulsion, right? But when an incident first happens, they get out of school suspension right away, and sometimes there's issues about notifying the parent. So I just want Dr. Pace to give us a report on how it's being implemented. So it's not against the substance abuse program from using the diversion, but there were, without having a long board meeting, there were some issues about how do we implement it and track it and make sure, because a parent has to agree to it too. So like, and sometimes parents don't show up. So let's say there's just a quick example, just not to go too far. Let's say little Johnny gets caught smoking marijuana, right? And parents aren't engaged. And so it's the first time offense. And the parent has to sign off in order to get into the diversion program. If the parent doesn't engage, you know what I mean? Like, what are some of the things? So I just want to say that, let's start collecting some data on how this program works, because it might need to come back to us to make some adjustments and tweaks. And there's some other things in there too, but I don't want to have a long board meeting. But that's what it was. It was about the notification, getting the letter back, and then what if they take 2 weeks to say they want it, and they were out of school suspended for 2 weeks, and then they brought back. You know what I mean? So it's a great program, great ideas. I'm just talking about minutia right now. It's just the implementation of it for staff can be a little bit of a pain in the butt of when the offense is committed. And because when the offense is committed, the principal has to give a punishment right away. They don't have time to be like, okay, you know what I'm trying to say? I know it sounds
No,
like
I understand.
really minutia,
Yeah.
but that was something that was brought up because I was at the meeting, and some staff had mentioned that. And so I just wanted to, for Dr. Pace, that the minute it's implemented, maybe the first month of data, to have some feedback and how we can make adjustments, because I know it's not going to be perfect when it rolls out. But the intentions are pure. I support it because it's the right thing to do. I just want to make sure that we're not creating an undue burden on staff and things like that.
Makes sense. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
that.
It will be a part of our fall training plans, and I will report back to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Pace.
So I have a motion and a second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on.
That's a 4.
Four. No problem. 4-1. We'll move up over to item 15.01. I believe, Mr. Hernandez? Did you pull that one?
That was Mr. Arroyo.
Arroyo?
Yeah.
I'm going to be 1505.
So, I know how this vote is gonna go. However, and I do appreciate the bargaining teams working hard to make this happen. And I want to explain my problem with it. 15.01, the salaries and benefits agreement for instructional employees does not go far enough. And here's why. Every single teacher in our district at some point who has a long career, whether it's here or somewhere else, will become a veteran teacher. And the last thing that you want to do is for crumbs today, leave yourself with scraps tomorrow. You need to protect the veteran teachers. We, as a district, need to protect our veteran teachers, and this just does not go far enough. So I'll just go with that, and then someone else can make the motion.
Is there a way to make it go more, though? According to, I know there's limitations on statute of, I forget what the formula is, it's so confusing, but like, based on the highest number of something is the highest increment that you can get. And correct me, Dr. Pace, what exactly is that? Because I remember hearing about that. And we're talking about the longevity pay. Like if somebody's been at the district for like 10 years or more, is there a certain formula for how much money we can actually give to them?
The agreement does include the non-recurring longevity supplement that we negotiated for a 2-year deal in last year's agreement. It may be something that the Auditor General looks down upon as we move forward because the statutory language did change, so that now anything paid toward longevity is supposed to be considered in the performance pay and grandfathered pay calculations. But the statutes are very clear that the highly effective performance pay teacher has to make more than a teacher who chooses to remain on the grandfathered salary schedule in terms of a recurring raise. Is Mr. Boyd there? I don't have the exact percentage. It's been a little bit since I was that nitty-gritty at the negotiating table, but I believe it's about 75% differential. So within the pot of money that we determined, and the board added more, the board's team agreed to add more than what was originally requested, this agreement does balance what a performance pay highly effective teacher gets, a grandfathered teacher gets, and an effective teacher on the performance pay schedule gets in accordance with statute.
Now, if somebody's grandfather, did they get the grandfather plus the highly effective if they happen to be highly effective? Are they able to stack both of them together? Or they only get one of them?
No. No, if they choose to remain on the grandfathered salary schedule, their pay is not calculated based on performance, highly effective or effective, but it also allows them to retain their professional services contract if they choose to do so.
Now, is that our personal
Teachers on the
policy,
performance
or is
pay
it-
contract. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just wondering, was that our policy internally, or was that the state saying that you can't do both?
The law changed in 2011.
I'm kind of like hamstrung. I'm looking at the teachers, and I want to give you more, the veteran teachers, in other words. And I just want, I'm Dr. Pace, I'm looking at the audience, and I see a lot of staff there, and I almost feel like this is about the best that we can do, you know what I mean? It's like, man, I wish Tallahassee would value the experience of veteran teachers just as much as they do beginning teachers. So with that, I would have to support what we have here, because I guess this is some of the best that we can do. And so I personally want to be able to give more. I agree with my colleague to my left that, veteran teachers, and I think I spoke with Mr. Boyd about it earlier too. It was funny, when Tallahassee got rid of tenure, and everybody's an annual contract. So if you're not a good teacher, then we vote you out. But the fact that you survive annual contracts year after year, it's because you're good. You know what I mean? There should be no more justification of your value to this district. And I think it's unfortunate that Tallahassee doesn't allow us to be able to at least stack them or give you a higher differential. For that, I apologize.
Thank you. Mr. Thacker? 1 second, Mr. Thacker had his light off.
Can't argue with anything you're saying, but certainly when we did the big step up in starting teachers, which we needed, it made a very bad situation. So, but that being said, this has been negotiated. I think we need to move forward. I'll make a motion to approve this, and hopefully we will continue to deal with it as time moves on. Okay.
Thacker, I have a motion. Mr. Arguello, comment?
Go ahead and call the vote, Terry. Thank you.
Motion. Second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank
No.
you.
Opposed, one opposed.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Mr. Arguello. You also pulled 5.02.
Yeah, but I'll withdraw.
We might as well go over
Move
each
for
one.
approval 15.02.
These are pretty important. We just might as well do everyone.
Thank you. I'll have a motion by Mr. Thacker for 15.02. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Arguello. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 15, are we doing?
Yes.
Got the blue sheeted item for the Teamsters, 15.03.
I do want to comment.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Thacker, and a comment by Mr. Melendez. Mr. Melendez?
I believe this is the right categorical, because we have so many categories of employees. I want to thank Dr. Pace, first of all, because I call a spade a spade. I know that bus drivers have been having, we have an immense issue recruiting them and retaining them. And this year, we decided in our strategic plan to incorporate more bus attendants, so that way they can help them out. And obviously, the bus attendants don't have the same level of responsibility as the driver themselves for having the license and everything else. And so there was a big concern that they're both making $15 an hour. And when I spoke to transportation, they were really concerned about that. So thank you, Dr. Pace, for agreeing with the Teamsters in this one to bump up their starting salary to $16.50. So now the bus drivers are at $16.50 instead of $15, so there's some form of differential there. And so, and I would like to do that for every category that exists in the school district, but at the very minimum, that was a real pain point.
And put us in line with other, like Orange and
I'm not sure.
Does it, or?
I don't know,
not?
I'm just asking you how close.
All I know is they're literally going, the bus drivers going from, some of them are starting at $13 an hour to $16.50. So there's a significant difference there. So I really appreciate the fact that the Teamsters is willing to work with us, and they'll see us soon. And not only they're getting $16.50, but some of them are gonna get attended too. So not only they're getting a raise, they're getting somebody else on the bus that can help them manage the discipline issues and make their life a little bit easier. Because everything's not always about money. Sometimes it's about having.
One of those
sanity.
buses, I know what they have to go through.
So I approve, motion to approve 1503 for that. Has been
I
motion.
think we already have a motion by Mr. Thakur, second by Mr. Arguello Porto. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. We do have to go 1504.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Thakur.
Yeah, comments.
Discussion by Mr. Melendez.
Yes, and I apologize.
No problem.
This is where the non-bargaining unit and the regular bargaining units, to me, there's a little bit of a disconnect here. But these are the employees, and I tried to get their salaries here, and they didn't get it, HR didn't have time to accumulate that, because I think there's a difference between 1504 and 1505. So these are folks that could potentially make less than $15 an hour, because we saw that they're bumping up. And at some point, I think I mentioned at one of the board meetings, if you're bumping up to $15 an hour and somebody else is at 15, they're gonna get an increase of 2%. So I can't do the math that fast. 2% of $15 isn't that much, because 10% is $1.50, you know what I mean? So my point is, and Sarah Graber's not here, but she had told me before, the state of Florida asked the school district to do like a survey of the entire salary schedule, because they knew that $15 an hour was going to be a new floor. And I wanted to see what the total impact was if we adjusted everybody's salary, whether they're bargaining or non-bargaining, to reflect the difference of responsibility between $15 an hour and what it should be. And so my issue is, yeah, I'm okay with supporting this now, but my point is, I don't want to piecemeal up people's salaries. I want to, like, if you're a Secretary 3, you should make more than a Secretary 2. Secretary 2 should make more than a Secretary 1. You know what I mean? And so when $15 an hour is the new floor, you have a little bit of tight compression. Just like I said with the bus drivers, we increased that. But I want to see what the big picture is. And it may hurt. The picture might go, hey, we might have to infuse $10 million new to make everybody whole again, to make the difference between their boss and the next person. You know what I mean? But I don't want to be scared of that number. I want staff to tell me what that number is. So next time we negotiate in the future, maybe that could be part of the negotiation. Hey, can we get some equity in pay as far as the difference from $15 worth floor? So I'm still going to support this. I just wanted to make sure that was very clear that the longer we kind of piecemeal contracts together, we're like kicking the can down the road. At some point, everybody else is going to say, hey, wait a second, that bus driver got $16.50, I'm only 15. What about me? What about me? And you get the whole what about me movement, you know what I mean? So at some point, we just got to be honest with people and say, hey, look, if we did that to everybody, it's going to cost us $10 million. We don't have $10 million. Well, let's break it down and say, hey, year 1, we'll spend 5. Year 2, we'll, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to go over the details. I'm just letting you know the things that I'm hearing. And those are some of the concerns about constantly piecemealing that. We have to get, I need staff to tell me what is the full amount of money that's going to cost us to compress everybody's salary equitably.
Mr. Arguello, you're recognized, but before that, Dr. Pace and our assistant superintendents and Tammy, one thing that we might want to consider, again, as we're moving towards our strategic plan, is a compression policy, so that we don't have to continue to have this conversation. That way this is our compression policy overall, and then we can go ahead and move with anything additional on top of that when it comes to salary negotiations. That's my opinion, because then we don't have to continue piecemealing it, like you said. Is actually come up with a policy under our talent management strategic goal, perhaps. Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, I think one of the complaints that I've heard probably 20 times is that people can't even figure out what they should be paid or what they're entitled to, much less how they're doing across the district. And so maybe we should have a little bit more transparency and clarity regarding how everyone is paid and how a teacher's process is, and everyone, whether they're an ESP or whatever, just this is a public entity, and salaries should be public. And I think it would be helpful to everyone, and I think that everyone would be in support of having some transparency with the pay. So I know that it gets complicated, but maybe it shouldn't be so complicated because you have a lot of distrust because of that, I think. That simple adjustment, I think, would do us well.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry if I do not remember, do I have a motion and a second? Mr. Arguello, motion, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Motion to approve 15.05. I think Mr. Arguello's got some comments.
I do as well.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker for 15.05.
I'll second. I don't have any comments for that one. I think
Second by
it was-
Mr. Arguello, and a comment by Mr. Melendez. Mr. Melendez?
Yeah, and this one was tough because I understand everybody struggled through the pandemic, and I can talk to any employee and say the last couple years haven't been the same as prior, and they've had to work extra. When I was first presented this, I knew about the 3.5%, non-recurring supplement, and I even felt a little bit uncomfortable at that because when it was first introduced, we were still struggling with the ESPs. We hadn't increased people's salary to $15 an hour yet, and I wanted to focus my attention and any additional monies on the people on the bottom before I take care of extremely the people on the top. Then the governor came in and said, okay, I'm gonna give $1,000 supplement basically, or bonus to all the teachers and the principals. And then the ESPs went back and go, I want that money too. And so we said, you know what, this has been a pandemic year, you've been tough, on top of what you already negotiated, I'm gonna give every ESP $1,000. So I like to give that same $1,000 to all my top administrative staff too. But the justification I get is, well, they get 3.5% because, the lower employees got $750 or something like that. And $750 was equivalent to 3.5%. But yes, I understand that. But $750 to somebody making $12 an hour is significant. Somebody in the administrative staff making $80, $90, $100,000, it's a lot different. You know what I mean? Now, do I believe they deserve a bonus? Absolutely. And that's why when I saw that 3.5%, I was hesitant to supporting it, but I'm willing to support it. But then I read the agenda item, it's 3.5% plus 2% recurring salary. So they're getting like 5.5%. And I'm like, ouch. I didn't know we had that kind of money. And I want to be able to take care of the folks on the bottom as much as the top. And if I'm the only vote, I get it. But I just want to let them know that I'm not voting against this because I don't believe administration and staff deserve it. They're doing great. I just want to send a message that those on the bottom, that we need to treat the top as the same as the bottom. If we gave $1,000 supplements to those on the bottom, we give $1,000 supplements to those on the top. And I wish I could modify this to be like, okay, the non-recurring supplement's gonna be $1,000, and you still get your recurring supplement of 2.5% or 2% based on your effective ratings. And I just think that sends a message to everybody that we're on the same boat and we're not tipping heavily to the administration. Even though I do believe administration deserves it, I'm not gonna cry about this vote, and I'm not gonna lobby for you guys to agree with me. If I'm the only no vote, I get it, because administration does deserve the money. Again, it's about equity, and I was taught in the military, you take care of the bottom first, if there's left over, then I eat. But the bottom people eat first, and that's why I'm gonna vote no on 1505.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Arguello, and then I'll give to Mr. Bass.
I agree wholeheartedly with that position. At the same time, I think that we need to, and I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm really discussing something else, and it's really the highly effective or effective. I think that these highly effective and effective bars need to be held with a little bit more consciousness. We have a lot of people who are highly effective, right? But then a huge number of teachers under that person are not as highly marked. And so what it does is it says that you can have let's say that you have 20 teachers under you, just an example, you have 20 teachers under you, none of them are highly effective, yet you're highly effective yourself. And I think that that's something that has been an issue here at the district. I think that your performance needs to be based on how well your team is doing, and you should not supersede your team. If all of our teachers, if all the teachers in a school are not highly effective, and the principal's highly effective, to me that points to a problem. So normally, just because I think that it's pay and education is depressed, I tend to support this type of thing. I mean, unless it's a situation like with the veteran teachers. But I think that really the way that we're going to grade ourselves needs to not be so grandiose. It needs to be more tied to the people who are underneath us. And that's maybe also maybe a military aspect where no one's ever going to get a great mark if all your soldiers are terrible. You know, if you train your soldiers well and they do all great jobs, then chances are you do well yourself. And that's really how we should be. In my opinion, if we have a majority of teachers that are not highly effective, then I don't see that anyone else above them should be rated as highly effective.
Can they do that now? Thank you. Dr. Pace, that's a quite, can the principal get highly effective if more than 50% of the teachers are not rated highly effective?
Yes.
No, that's for Dr. Pace to answer. I didn't know that. Are you still there, Dr. Pace?
That would be highly unusual, Mr. Melendez. I certainly can go back and look at that particular data, but keep in mind that our administrators in instruction and learning, both school-based and district, have the same student achievement component as a part of their evaluation that our instructional staff members do.
Yeah,
So
I guess next time,
not only does it matter how the staff is doing, it matters how the students perform in their overall evaluation ratings.
Well, can I get a report like that at the next board meeting then? I want to see the ratings of all the principals and those that are the metrics in them. You know what I mean? So of all the highly effective principals that were last year, how many highly effective teachers or staff were in the system? I would like to get a report like that.
Okay, so you'd like last year's data because we won't have this year's
Yeah,
data
it'll be last year's
yet.
data. Yeah, just for a historical,
Okay.
because I don't like to insinuate things or, pretend things that don't exist. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to argue something without knowing the data in front of me. So I would like to see that, though. Of all the highly effective rated principals of last year, what were the ratings of the teachers beneath them?
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Bass?
Yeah, this is just really quick. I go over the agenda several days in advance, so I ask a lot of questions, and Tammy's been great providing the answers for me. And I understand exactly what you're saying. It'd be nice if we could just give everyone the same amount, but then you have to look at the responsibilities of those people. Every member in this district is a link in the chain, so I'm not going to say one's less important than the other, so I want to disclose that right up front. But I think you look, the lowest bonus was going to be like a clerk typist, and that was going to be $900, $907, I think is what you were giving me. And then when I polled the principals, and I polled a couple of principals, just curious, how many hours a week do you work? Really, truly, because I know they're always on campus at ball games and 56 to 60 hours per week, celebrating 2,300 students. That's a huge responsibility for that principal. Some of the Liberty teachers, and because of the traffic, on Friday nights, on any given night when there's a game, they don't have time to get home. So they just stay at the school, or they find a friend that lives in the area and they just hang out. So there's a huge amount of responsibility in comparing that to someone that's, like I said, is a clerk typist. And I'm not taking anything away from the clerk typist, that he or she's an integral part, but to give 1,000 in the principal without, to make a $1,000 bonus across the top just wouldn't seem.
But their base pay is higher, too.
Their base pay is higher. You're right. No, I understand
so
that.
It's like,
I
and the
understand
bonus
that.
is like,
I understand that. But our principals and staff go well above and beyond, I think, than we really see.
And I get it. I said, this is a tough no vote for me, because I love my student administrators. I talk to them all the time. I start to see them tomorrow. And again, I'm not voting against them, and that's why I want to make it really clearly that I still believe that they should get the raise. I still believe they should get a bonus, but I think they should get the same bonus that everybody else got. We all sacrifice together. I don't want to pit my brother against my sister, against my cousin. I love them all, and I love every single one of my employees, and I want to equitably, I want to give that same bonus to each one of them. And I do know that my brother may have, the oldest sibling may have more responsibility. That's why I pay them more. The principal don't make $12 an hour. The principal makes $90,000 to $100,000 a year, commensurate with their experience. And again, this is just a philosophy. I'm not trying to be against anyone. I'm not trying to pit people on purpose. I'm not trying to play politics. Just that's my philosophy, and I love all my employees, and I think they should all be treated equally.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Arguello, you had another comment, and then I think.
Yeah, I don't think that this is an issue of politics. I think that that's an absolutely genuine and legitimate concern. There's people who feed their kids first, and there's people who eat first, and that's a genuine concern. Because here's the thing. We don't have a lot of administrators who come here saying, I'm not appreciated, right? There's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of administrators who come in here and say, you know what, nobody loves me, the superintendent doesn't like me, I don't like the superintendent. We don't have that. They built a good team, right? So that means that you've taken care of that group. But we have loads and loads and loads of teachers coming here saying, no one loves me, no one appreciates me, I get no support, no one's listening. So it's like there's only a certain amount where you can be tone deaf, and it's just like, I'm not going to listen, I'm not going to listen, I'm not going to. No. There's groups in this district which are very well taken care of. And I'm not knocking that, I'm saying that's appropriate. That's exactly appropriate. They should be happy, they should be taken care of. So here's the thing though. You can't have a whole bunch of generals with nothing but medals on their chest feasting while you have your soldiers in the trenches starving and freezing. That's not the way that you execute a well-oiled machine. It's just not the way that you can do it well. And so that's the issue. We have to begin listening to the hundreds of people who are voicing out their opinions to us, to the thousands of people that those voices represent, and to the community that supports those people. And there's only so long that you can ignore them without losing credibility.
Thank you for your comments. I have a motion and a second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 15.06.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is 15.07.
Move for approval.
Motion by Mr. Thacker.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Arguello, I had 3 items for you under 15. Did we miss one? Or are you good?
No, 101, 01, 02, 03.
He withdrew one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's right. No problem. I have motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. And 15.08.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. I guess we're gonna have to do these all individually because we pulled one item, so.
Is there any way we can do the whole block except for
Except for
the
1612?
1612?
Well, we have 1605 as well.
1605.
Oh, 1605. Ah, that's the one I had 15.
Yeah. So,
Can't read my writing.
no problem. 1601, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bass, second by Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. 602.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Arguello, second by Thacker. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes
Your turn, Julius.
5-0. 1603.
Motion approved with discussion.
Motion by Mr. Melendez with discussion, second by Mr. Arguello. Mr. Melendez, you're recognized.
Yeah, why are these, I know it's technically money, but then they're like facilities related contracts. Why are these under business and not under facilities? I mean, just a technical question.
Mr. Plunge.
Because these are construction manager at risk for the different projects. I mean, technically we're spending money, but usually these types of deals are under your.
Yeah, so this is because the oversight is by the procurement department, which falls under business and finance. So the procurement department manages the CC&A process. the shortlisting, presentations, et cetera.
So, but when there's change orders, or, because I noticed the ODP, when we get money back for taxes,
Then
that's not under
those-
business and
those
finance,
fall
that's
under
under.
facilities. And that-
So just the initial award is
Correct.
business and finance, and after that award, any kind of maintenance of that contract or
Yes.
changes to it, even though they're financially related, they're still falling to you.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, that's just,
No,
I'm a nerd, I like to know why we're doing things, you know?
Makes sense. So you did the motion, no, I'm sorry, who, can we repeat that?
We just made a motion, I second it.
Okay, lowered, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you, 1603 passes.
Motion approved.
Second.
Melendez and Thacker,
For
first and
16.
second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. 1605
Motion approved.
is pulled. I have
Oh,
a
you
pulled.
pulled
It doesn't matter, we can still make the motion.
Okay, motion by
I'll
Mr.
second.
Melendez,
I'll second for.
second by Mr. Bass. We have a discussion. I don't remember who pulled this item.
It was me.
Mr.
So
Arguello?
this is a process. This is the question that I asked of Ms. Martinez, and she helped me come to the conclusion to support this. But at the same time, this is why we have an HR department, right? And so it seems like when it comes to like the food services, we keep it all in-house, right? Good decision, I'm not arguing against that. But when it comes to the HR, we're fishing some of this out, right? So I don't necessarily agree with the reasons or like when that's done. That's not my job to agree or disagree, it's just my job to vote yes or no. But at the same time, these are huge expenses. And I do realize that the HR team needs the help here, but I think at some point what we need to do is if we're not going to, and I'm glad that Dr. Pace had mentioned that she's going to start providing us with the justification for some of these contracts in the agenda items. I think that's totally appropriate. But some of these seem like they're maybe unnecessary. Like, this is the whole reason that you have an HR is so that you can bring these people in instead of paying somebody else to do that same job. And we keep adding, right? If we need somebody to handle the interviewing process, that's something that we should consider. I know that there's an issue of building the pool, that we keep adding, even in this agenda, we keep adding generals to the top of the list. And where we need help, it seems like, is we don't need someone necessarily to manage these processes, because all we keep doing is writing contracts to people. So I would just caution the district that maybe we should start looking at how we're using bodies, because it seems to always result in these contracts going to departments that we have that we should be totally in-house, human resources being one of them. So with that, I mean.
Mr. Melendez, you're
Yeah,
recognized.
I'm guilty. I'm the one that brought this up, okay? What this is there's been so many vacancies, and there's been a lot of substitutes by people who weren't substitute certified.
Yeah.
So a lot of ESPs and paraprofessionals were constantly, substituting half the year. And what happens is when they substitute half the year, that then their normal duties go left unfilled. So this isn't regular teachers, these are substitutes. By definition, a substitute, you never know when they're going to be a substitute. So I was saying, you can't hire a full-time substitute just to kind of hang out there and perform the whole year. By using a staffing agency, you can temporarily fill that vacancy. So at least I'm understanding, maybe I didn't read the contract correctly, we're not just paying them just no matter what. We're only paying them if they fill a vacancy on our position. And if we were to pay, and so it's not really, we're not really paying more. I mean, we are paying more because they got to pay like an upcharge for that, but that's a service that a staffing agency does. Now, and then I did speak with Ms. Otterson about it too, was that, as things get better and we get more substitutes online, then the staffing levels go back to normal. But right now, we went through the greatest resignation this whole country has witnessed. It's not just isolated to Osceola County, and we have to fill those holes. I need staff to be happy. I don't need a paraprofessional doing 2-3 things, and then complaining, then they don't make enough money, then they want more money. You know what I mean? It's like those things have long-term consequences. So I'm guilty of the one kind of pushing this forward, and I appreciate that, because I even spoke with Dr. Reyes about it a long time ago, and I was kind of the one pushing behind the scenes about, we got to do something. Because my principal at my school, my son's school, Parton Settlement, Mr. Corbett, the principal was substituting for almost I don't know for how long. I mean, that is ridiculous. And so this was not the ideal scenario. I get that, Mr. Groh, and I apologize, but I just need something to correct that gap until we can kind of get more people willing to be substitute teachers, or not really substitute teachers, more full-time teachers. Because at some point, you're never going to have, like, people are going to have vacancies no matter what. But we wanted substitute teachers to go back to like the normal before the pandemic and the resignation. So I fully support 1605 and 1606 because we have to do something to alleviate the teacher shortage and the substitutes that we have.
Mr. Arguello, and then I think we are ready for a vote.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't think, and Ms. Martinez, she kind of explained it very well. The issue is, we're all pulling from the same resource, right? There's 400,000 people live in Osceola County, whether it's Kelly or the district that's trying to get those people to come into the district, it's the same pool, right? Now, Kelly has actually teachers that are outside of Osceola, they go into Orange, they go into Polk, they might have other people that can come in and they can do this job. So if they come in and they fill all these seats and then our teachers are not overworked and all our ESPs are not overworked and everything, it would be a great solution. Right now, the issue goes even deeper though, right? So we could be alleviating the problem, and here's the question. I didn't make this analysis myself, so I'm not gonna vote against this, but would hiring a person here have been cheaper whose sole job is to bring in substitutes, right? And so what I'm saying is, when that's the question, when whether the district takes action A, or they go hire a consultant, or they give a contract to somebody else, they almost always go with the contract to someone else. And so that's really just what I'm saying, but...
Madam Chair, just for the record, I actually did the first contract negotiated with Kelly for the Orange County Schools. The good news is, this is a contract you can easily measure performance on.
Yep.
What we did see at the time was an increase in the quality and dependability. Well, I don't know where they found these people, but we weren't finding them, and the caliber of substitutes as a group rose.
But that says something
but
too,
you
right?
can- Right, but you can measure it. So at the end of the year, you're going to get the benefit of knowing, did this help or not help, and actually you can see metrics. And I hope it works like it worked over there, but it's going to be easy for you to look at.
Yeah, so it'd be nice if we would, maybe then we need the person who's at Kelly bringing all those high-quality people here. You know what I'm saying? That's my point.
I mean, companies use recruiters all the time from outside, and we do it at my organization if we can't find candidates. So this isn't unusual, in my opinion, so I'm glad we're gonna have the data to be able to compare them. Mr. Melendez, and I do think we need to call the vote.
Right, yeah, in my last item, I want to give Ms. Otterson another kudos as well. Again, I like to call a spade a spade. Most times, staffing agencies have to pay a finder's fee if they ever convert to a full-time employee status. She was able to negotiate that clause off of the contract. So it's not going to really call it, so it's almost like a trial period. You get a staffing person, if we fall in love with that employee, you want to make them a full-time staff member, we can do that without having to pay additional to that. So kudos, Ms. Otterson, for your negotiating ability.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor? Can you please clarify who?
I made the first initial motion. I don't remember. It's been a
It
while.
was Mr. Bass and Mr. Melendez
I
with
didn't-
comment. So I have a motion by Bass, second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we'll move to,
Motion to approve 1613, or do we have to go to each one?
no, 1606, we're still there. 1606, motion by Mr. Melendez,
Second.
second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. 607.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bass, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor? Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. 1608.
To approve.
Motion by Mr. Arguello, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. 5-0. 1606.
909.
Sorry.
I
16, it's a
was
lot.
making a motion to
Oh, there's not a 1610, actually, it balances out.
Yeah, 1609, I have a motion by Mr. Thacker and a second by Mr. Baz. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. 1611.
Move to approve.
Second discussion? Second discussion?
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Melendez with discussion. Mr. Melendez, you are recognized.
Ms. Graber isn't here, but I know we talked about possibly incorporating the workers' compensation program into the health clinic somehow. And I don't mind approving this now, but I want to know what our plan is to eventually merge the two, because I think there was potential savings if we were to do something like that. Okay.
Did we skip 1610 or?
There's
There
no
is none.
solution.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Whatever.
The limit does not exist.
I believe 1610 is executive content, Madam Chair.
It's not on the
Okay, it's
agenda.
not on the agenda. I know what you're talking, I did remember reading that executive content, so what?
So it does require action, but it's not
Okay,
something that
so
the
that
public
means that
sees.
we are not logged in to see the executive data.
Is it on our posted agenda to the public?
Yes.
Somebody verify that?
It is, because I remember reading it, but it, yeah.
I don't right now. I don't even know what I'm voting on.
Hold on, I think we need to sign into board docs in order to be able to see it. I don't think we're signed in. Yeah, but we're not signed in as ourselves. So if you click on the little person and then log in with your credentials, you'll be able to see it.
Requesting the approval of the privacy protection policy cyber insurance.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve 1610.
Just tell me what the topic was again. Just
Privacy.
the name of it without.
Privacy protection policy cyber insurance.
Okay. All right. I approve that.
Mr. Becker, you made a
I
motion.
made a motion.
And that's an insurance policy, correct? To add that as a rider.
I have a motion by Mr. Thacker. Did you want to second that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Melendez. I'm not sure if the rest of the board is trying to read it, and I will give them the opportunity to do so if they are.
Madam Chair, could I?
Yes.
Mr. Thorne, can you look into how this happened? Because I don't have 1610.
Because you're not
Randy's
logged
looking
in.
at the very same thing, and
Because
he
you're
has
not-
16.
Because you're not logged in.
You
It's
have to-
executive. You
You have to
have
log
to be
in.
logged in.
You have to log into the system.
But it still should be on there. Can you figure out why
You
it's?
just can't see the
It's
content,
confidential.
Oh, okay.
but it should be on your agenda.
It's dealing with our.
Yeah, but it should say 1610 confidential.
Cybersecurity.
No, it should. So it's out there.
Oh, I know.
You can't open it because it's locked.
See, that's what he's saying. It should be on the public agenda. They should see it.
Any other questions on where it is on the agenda?
I just want to make sure the rest of the board has read it, because I don't want them to take a vote without understanding. Mr. Arguello?
I have not
It
seen
was
it.
on there at home.
Oh, I know. Okay, so I'll entertain, board, all those in favor? Aye. Mr. Arguello?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0 for 1610. We did 1611,
Did you
16.
vote 1611? I have a first and a second, but I don't vote.
Okay, board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0, 1612.
That was cool. Well, most moved to approve, but it was also, I think, someone pulled.
I'll second
Oh,
it.
yes, I do have.
For
a-
1612, we have Mr. Arnaz.
Yeah, okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Thacker. Going to have comment by Mr. Arguello. Did you still have a comment?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think that this is an unnecessary change. It seems like purchase of the white fleet vehicles, I think it's to $300,000. I'm not sure that it's necessary. Why not just bring it to the board as a board item the way everything else is?
I can answer that.
And, okay, and the other thing is, I've seen our white fleet, this is a white fleet that's no longer white. To 100% credit to your team, because I have never seen a government entity drive vehicles as old as this, which means that they must be maintained very well. So, I mean, I couldn't even, I mean, I think I saw like that vehicle from the 80s.
Mr. Arguello, when I started, we had a van out here with 600,000 or 700,000 miles on it.
Yeah, I was, I mean, I saw like I think it was like an 89 GMC, literally, it was out, so I couldn't, but anyways, obviously, this is a time that obviously these vehicles, at some point, they're gonna have to be repurchased, and I don't think that this is something that should be done in this way. I think it should come before the board.
The reason for asking for this is it's hard to find vehicles. I've had the $300,000 all year, but no vehicle is available. When one pops up, by the time I bring it to you all, get the bid process, it's gone. So I need like I think Ms. Hood explained to me this would be a 3-day turnaround, so that I could pick them up, and I'm only doing it for this part, and only for this time, obviously.
And it's only with the money that's already
There's only
allocated in the
$300,000.
budget, right?
You'd like to make
No,
it.
not just 300,000, no, I'm not talking about like when we do the budget at the beginning of the year, and because we should say, okay, how much of that white fleet we anticipate replacing. So let's say the total amount is 500,000. See, I wouldn't mind even amending that. Let's say the total amount we thought, I'm just making it up, 500,000, right? So superintendent uses their authority for 300,000 this one time, right? Then wants to use it again, now we're at 600,000. Now we're at a budget amendment beyond just that authority. So I just want to make sure that this authority does not exceed the amount of money that was allocated for that categorical, because if it exceeds the categorical, I do want it to come back to the board, even though I know you're needing it right away. It's just that operations were different than what we planned, and when operations is different from planned.
It's a budget amendment.
Right.
But this is in general, this is not just for the 300 grand that's sitting there now. This is period, right?
It's asking just for this time period to this 300 grand.
That's for-
I asked Sarah for 10.1 million, that would fix everything, but she doesn't have it.
So you limited it only for 2023.
That's
So the
plan,
next
yeah.
school year, will
Hopefully
we?
next year,
Okay.
life will be better in
Yeah,
Q4.
and that's what I expect too, though. So when I was talking about my original point, it still stands then. So I guess I'm okay with passing this now, and then when we do the next year's budget, I just want to make sure that we're allocating the appropriate amount for the replacement.
I misread that. Is there a motion already on?
Motion by Bass, second by Thacker. Any further discussion? Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for 17.09.
I'll motion to approve 17.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor? Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Move to approve 18.01.
If I can take a moment of privilege, I do have some folks talking about one of the items.
I think it's the one that's been pulled.
Yeah, 18.4 probably.
I think 18.4 is the one.
18.04 was pulled.
And I think that's the one.
Okay. It was,
I'm going to make my motion for 1801.
okay, no problem. Okay, so 1801, Mr. Thacker,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Bass. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Move to approve 1802.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. 1803.
Motion approved.
Motion by Melendez, second by Mr. Thacker. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes
Madam Chair,
4-0.
could I, just for the record, tell the board
Yes, of
that
course.
the celebration homeowners group were excellent to deal with, getting it renewed. So really
you.
appreciated the way they worked with us.
Thank you so much. I do not remember who pulled 1804.
John.
And he is not.
We have speakers on that too.
We do, that's why I wanted to make sure. So I guess we can go ahead and have the speakers start. Yeah, we could, let's go ahead and take a type 5. That's my trainer and me. If we can be back at 7:42. We'll go ahead and start with the folks who came to speak on this specific item. Thank you. Recess. And as I previously stated, we'll go ahead and start this portion with the public comments regarding the charter school. So just as a moment to review, you will have 3 minutes to speak on the subject that you are here to speak about. Please take a look at the time clocks that are going to be on the televisions. Do not address any board members specifically. Please keep your comments respectful and cordial at all times. And if I do stop you at the 3-minute mark, it is not anything personal. I just want to make sure to give everybody a chance to speak. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with Mr. Mark Gotts.
Good evening. My name is Mark Gotts, and I'm the founder and my 3 minutes
Mr.
started
Gotts, can
here.
you give us your address for the record, please?
Yes, 2395 Hickory Tree Road, St. Cloud, Florida.
Yeah.
I am the founder and business manager for American Classical Charter Academy. And last week we got our third grade reading scores. So our third grade reading scores came out at 62% proficiency. And obviously, we all know third grade reading is very important. We all know third grade reading is very important because that is an indicator of your graduation rates. So that was 20% greater than the state average. And it was 40% greater than the Osceola district average. We're all looking forward to our balance of our scores. Our fourth grade MAP test results were 88% proficient in reading. We're accomplishing our mission in educating our students through a classical education format. Why would the school district want to close down a charter school that is in the top 5 of all schools, both charter and traditional, in the county? Is there a problem with our success? Any one of the 4 board members who voted for closure can bring this issue back for discussion and rescind the termination. Do you really want to close a school that is educating students so much better than the district? I would think you would want to copy us, unless there is something more going on. We have lost 150 students because of comments that have come out of the school district. A lie that we aren't paying our teachers, a lie that we are being evicted May 27th, a lie that the security of the school is not well done. Currently, you're holding our ESSER money. We have financial difficulties, so we have presented the board and the school district with a corrective action plan, which basically we've had the school district turn their back on our corrective action plan. We would like to continue to operate our school and give the citizens and students and parents and voters of this county an opportunity to experience the classical education program that we offer and be successful in their education. To be continued.
I would ask you to address after we actually go into public comment. I apologize.
This is a different one, but I really would like to address it now.
Can you please address it? Okay, I will allow it.
Okay, I appreciate the rhetoric, but let's discuss the facts. The facts are, you served a letter on the state and us saying you were financially collapsing. Your financial management company sent a letter to you saying, you don't get to respond, sir, I'm responding to you. Sent a letter, let me finish. Sent a letter specifically telling us they were quitting and they thought you didn't have financial survival. You sent a management plan, a proposed corrective action plan was this. The district would give them $300,000 in ongoing money so they could survive. That is not what the charter school system. The state of Florida recently wrote you a letter saying what you proposed was not a corrective action plan. So when you come here and say these things, I'm going to rebut it. You have a lawyer. I have said to him time and time again, I have it documented, give us a corrective action plan with these elements. You haven't done it. You tout your schools. If you look at your scores across the board, we have schools above you, at you, and below you. And there's multiple reasons for that I could explain. But at the end of the day, don't stand here and say that this board is somehow shutting you down. You do not have the financial wherewithal. Furthermore, you have an eviction lawsuit with a hearing in August that your landlord has postponed because they didn't want to evict the kids during the school. So at the end of the day, you don't have the money to operate, and it is not this school district's responsibility to fund your charter school. That's your school's responsibility.
Thank
I don't
you.
have anything else.
Thank you for the dissertation, even though it was incorrect
Thank you, Mr.
from
Goff,
start
for your comments.
to end.
We appreciate it. And team, I apologize. I meant to just call the folks who were here for the SCPA. That only said charter school, which is why I called them. That was on me. Ms. Jennifer Meir.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Meyer, and I am one of the employees of St. Cloud Preparatory Academy. I'm here tonight to provide the timeline of
Ms.
events.
Meyer, excuse me, can you please state your address for the record?
Yes,
That's for
sorry.
everyone speaking,
That helps
please.
me too.
Sure. It's 610 Calibre Crest Parkway, Altamont Springs, Florida. So I am one of the employees from St. Cloud Preparatory Academy. I'm here tonight to provide the timeline of events that unfolded at the end of the school year and how this has affected me and my family. On Wednesday, May 18th, the staff was told that the school would close. We would be paid our last check August 15th with benefits ending August 30th. This was sad to hear, but provided some relief knowing that our pay would continue through the summer, and it would help to cover the impending birth of my daughter at the first week of August. On Thursday, May 19th, an email was sent confirming what was said in the meeting the day before, that pay and benefits would be extended through August 15th and 30th respectively. On Saturday, May 28th, after the end of the school year, an email was sent out saying that we would be considered terminated employees, and as of June 30th, the school making June the last payroll. We were directed to contact the district with any questions. On Monday, May 30th, another email was sent out stating that the school would have saved the money and that they did not anticipate that that any of this was happening, and they were going to use the money from the upcoming year to finish paying the school year contracts. On June 4th, a Facebook post was made on the school website, Facebook, trying to further clarify the issues, concerns, and responsible parties. Furthermore, it stated a desire to have staff not post concerns on Facebook, and this was the first instance that staff was suggested to seek out the superintendent of Osceola County School District. It also stated that staff would have to be dealt with accordingly. The SCPA page was then soon deleted after the post was made. On June 6th, an email was sent out providing more details of what happened but offered no solution about how the contract would be fulfilled through the end of the summer. As extremely devastating as it was to hear that the school was closing, myself and many others were comforted by the fact that our contracts would be honored and that there would be jobs for all of the teachers. It was when the May 28th email was sent stating that I would lose my last 3 paychecks, as well as my husband, who also worked at the same school, that I began to panic about how I would afford my rent and bills as an expectant mother with a baby due in just 2 months. This not only affects me, but is also affecting my unborn daughter in ways that I never thought I would have to worry about after completing my duty to the school at the end of the school year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Asma Elmani.
Good evening. My address is 10339 Kristen Park Drive in Orlando, Florida. Good evening, board members. I am addressing you tonight because the impact that the School Board of St. Cloud Preparatory Academy and the Executive Director have caused, not just on me, but to all of my colleagues at St. Cloud Prep. I am not sure if you are aware of all the details, but I will keep this short. The funds that the district provided for the staff's salary has been somehow misused, and the staff will not be paid for the work that we have completed. This devastating blow also includes the loss of our benefits. This impacted me in such a huge way, since my insurance will not be available to me I will not have access to a medication that allows me to breathe properly. You see, I have severe asthma that cannot be controlled without the medication that costs me $4,000 a month. With my insurance, it is covered at 100%. We have other staff members whose spouses and family members have disabilities and they rely on insurance as well. As you saw, the pregnant coworker come up and she addressed you as well, and her insurance is lost. Some of our staff rely on this paycheck to keep food on the table, lights on, and the roof over their heads. We have tried to reach out to different board members with hopes that we could get answers from them, but at first it was with fail. I did not get a response to an email that I sent to the board members. I did not get response to text messages. Others have tried making phone calls, reaching out via social media. They were not successful either until yesterday when a statement was released by email. They were trying to state why they were not to blame, but offered us no solution to our dilemma. I'm standing before you to ask you not to accept the surrender of the charter from this board. Please do not make it easier for them to not be accountable for the misuse of funds and allow us proper time to work with council. We have worked tirelessly all school year to receive this giant slap in the face. I ask you to help be part of our solution. As an employee and a parent of Osceola Public Schools, I am also asking that the board vote on conducting a forensic audit. By showing your support in this issue, you'll be showing all of us that you support every teacher that's employed here in the county. Thank you for your time.
Nicole Hill.
Thank you for seeing me tonight. My name is Nicole Hill, and I reside at 4764 Citrus Drive, St. Cloud, Florida. My name is Nikki Hill. I spent many hours volunteering at St. Cloud Prep. My mother, the first grade teacher there, and her loss of income has affected us really greatly. I live off a disability. I don't make much. And I'm unable to obtain employment because I'm bipolar and PTSD and borderline personality disorder. So without my mother's income, we're going to struggle, and it's not fair. The closure of the school has been difficult enough, but the financial impact has only further upset the situation. We aren't asking for anything for more than what is owed to the teachers and the staff, their pay and their benefits. As I finish in my speech, I ask that the Osceola Public School District please conduct a forensic audit. Thank you for your time.
Stacy Howell.
I'm Stacy Howell. My address is 4740 Salamander Street, St. Cloud, Florida, 34472, I think. I don't remember. Good evening, all. My name is Stacy Howell. I am a now former employee of St. Cloud Prep. I am also a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a veteran, and I'm telling you this so you can see who I am. I want you to know the people that depend on me. Our admin team, our school board, and members of the district stood in front of us during an emergency staff meeting on May 18th, assuring that we would continue to receive our pay until August 15th and our benefits through August 31st, only to be sent an email at the beginning of what was supposed to be Memorial Day weekend on Saturday, May 28th, that said that was not the case. I, as well as the other teachers and staff, have worked tirelessly through this entire school year, through teacher shortages, high turnover, poor communication, behavioral issues, and burnout. I've had to fight for a lot of things in my life, but I have never had to fight for a paycheck. This cannot be the only organization that can stop payment to their employees after we fulfilled our duties and our obligations and it not be considered theft. I would like for the school board to pay the employees the money that we are owed, or I'm officially requesting a forensic audit be conducted and that all records be made easily obtainable to all employees and the public. I would also like to suggest the stop of the surrender of this charter. Thank you.
At this moment, that seems to be see every speaker that I have on item 18.04. I would just like to call anyone who may have not filled any of a sheet out. If they need to speak, I would ask them to come up now. Can you fill it all out? Yes, okay, thank you.
Hello. My name is Mike Fisher, and my address is confidential based on law enforcement exemption. I am a school board member of St. Cloud Prep and have been for the last 4.5 years. I believe you all received a letter that we drafted as a board, and I'd like to read that if that's okay. And are you all good with that? It might take a little longer. Well, we'll get it in 3 minutes. Based on the current campaign to malign St. Cloud Preparatory Academy and its leadership, specifically Mr. D'Amico, who's standing to my left, I submit this letter to address disturbing and erroneous accusations. Mr. D'Amico has worked for St. Cloud Prep as a volunteer for many years prior to coming on board as the executive director in the last 2 years. To help stabilize the operations of the leadership team, he has never owned any part of the school nor acted in any untoward manner to cause the board to be concerned about his actions. He has been a fierce ally for St. Cloud Preparatory. There has been no indication of misappropriation of funding in the past or currently. In fact, the school has always been scraping by for years and been subject to financial observation by the school district. These financial records are a matter of public record, as St. Cloud Preparatory is a nonprofit public charter school. A bond was being sought for 2020, but the funding for that never achieved due to the COVID pandemic, in which resources disappeared. Therefore, the plan to build more permanent buildings for the middle school and high schools was never realized, nor was funding ever received. The original EB-5 bond funding was used to build the elementary school on the property now. Mr. D'Amico nor the board were able to negotiate a long-term lease with the current landholder outside of a year. In fact, it was reiterated multiple times during our negotiations that the current property owner had multiple offers to sell the property and would do so and wanted to withhold that right for us, and they would not go beyond a year lease. We suggested a 3-year, they wouldn't go beyond that. Since 2020, St. Cloud Preparatory has lost well over 140 students due to COVID fears and instability of leadership, which attempted to be fortified with the hiring and a seasoned principal in Kimberly Santana, in conjunction with an executive director in order to stabilize academics and operations. The loss of the student body created a more financial hardship on St. Cloud, which further eliminated our ability to secure another location in case the property was sold. In an effort to communicate quickly with staff, giving them as much time as possible to secure new positions, inaccurate information was given on length of funding for their paychecks, and this was neither malicious or intentional misrepresentation of that. Merely not enough information at the time was provided to make an accurate statement. There was no realization funding would be terminated at the end of June because we continued to operate year to year, assuming that money would be there. At this time, the school was emptied, the school has been emptied of equipment.
Mr. Fisher,
Oh,
your time's
okay.
up.
That's all right.
Can the other gentleman read the letter?
You want to finish this?
If you would both put your, state your names and address if you can for the record. as
John
well as
D'Amico, my address is confidential as well due to some threats on social media lately. As of this time, the school was emptied of equipment by district, and it's my understanding that all monies being paid out have been monitored by Osceola County School District based on statute. Our goal is always put our students and staff first. In light of the financial hardships and imminent prospect of the property being sold from under the school at any given time, the board acted in what was thought to be the best interest of our SCPA students, families, and staff, as we could not provide them with a stable future for academic excellence. Unfortunately, this has caused an untold amount of turmoil for everyone involved, which truly saddens all of us. We were proud of how our teachers rallied through the COVID pandemic, and they did, and worked very hard. And as they focused on making the best academic environment for our students, but the continued losses took a heavy toll. Many of the board members have or had children and or grandchildren who attended SCPA, making it very personal for us as well, or for them. This was a heart-wrenching decision for all of us, but made with the intention to provide the best future for everyone involved. Signed by Tammy Raz, our board chair.
Mr. D'Amico, it is not a legal exemption that you had threats, but could you give your address as the school address for our record.
3101 Progress Lane, St. Cloud, Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You both, please fill out the proper paperwork so we can submit it into the
Yep.
record.
Thanks.
Mr.
Okay.
Kroppenbacher, since this is an item that is on our agenda for a vote, I will seek your counsel. Mr. Arguello, I see your comments. You will be recognized after Mr. Kroppenbacher.
This is obviously an unfortunate situation for everyone. The law provides you have no responsibility in this matter, number one. Number two, other than to take possession of the property that was funded by public dollars, et cetera. Here is what I've discerned, and I think one of the ladies called me, and I appreciated her giving me a heads up. They apparently had contracts that ran through the end of July. Problem is, FTE funding ends for the school year on June 30th. FTE dollars would accrue post-June 30th for the new year, right? So they're not going to have any dollars.
But only for the July part, would be dollars up to June?
Through June 30th. They wouldn't have dollars for the June 30th to August 1, that period of
Just that
time.
small
correct.
part.
The law is clear. It says, I'm summarizing, upon closure, they can't expend more than $10,000 without, on an expenditure, without this board's approval, unless the expenditure was included in their annual budget that had been submitted to the sponsor. So Dr. Rafalski has been working with them to assure. There was a phone conference call this afternoon with Mr. Fisher, Mr. D'Amico, the superintendent, Sarah Graver, myself, Dr. Rafalski. They asked with the remaining money, could they pay, and their attorney was also on, could they pay the employees first? We said that wasn't our decision, that was their board's decision, and there was dead silence, and I said, you are not hearing anybody on this end of the call objecting. They owe some substantial dollars to different vendors. I think the biggest one, unless I'm wrong, is the food service provider. I remember what Schwarzkopf once said, take care of your troops first. So it is their decision whether they take the money they get on the FTE, and as to a forensic audit, we are required, and we are told them we're holding back the $8,000 for it, to conduct an independent audit. It has to be completed within 30 days of the notice of non-renewal, closure, or termination. So Ms. Graver's working on that and getting that. It is my recommendation you approve the closure, because it doesn't in any way take away any of these people's arguments or rights, but come June 30th, there's not going to be an entity to pay anyone, and the administrator won't be working there anymore, and it just won't be, right? I mean, it's a sad situation. So they can choose to take the money they have available and pay their employees, all right? They can't, and we explained it to them, give them a bonus or something to somehow make up for the month of July.
They can or they cannot?
They cannot. Now, I think with their lawyer, there are ways to do a lot of things. I'm not here to give that advice because I'm not for the school and it'd be inappropriate. But they choose to do with the remaining dollars what they want to do with it.
The audit that we
Their
are
board.
supposed to do, that is a forensic audit that we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, I'm very concerned with the amount of charters that are being surrendered or changing hands in a short period of time. So let me ask you, Dr. Pace, are you on the line still?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, so are we in some way, shape, or form withholding money from ACCA?
Sir, we do not withhold any payments or earn to them for their FTE.
Or, so there's no funds, that claim was patently false, we're withholding nothing from them.
Don't withhold funds, sir. If their FTE earns it, then they receive their regular payments.
Minus the district administration.
Right.
Okay, but Mr. Gotts made a claim, so is he lying?
We're talking about two different schools right
Thank
now.
you. So is Mr. Gotts lying, or there's nothing else holding up that, right? It's related to this school also.
We, as of
I'm happy
yesterday,
to go back.
we are not withholding funds.
Okay, so then,
Finance has been told
okay,
to release.
and there's no way legally that we can withhold money from St. Cloud Prep, which is what you just said, right?
We wouldn't withhold.
But it's not about whether we would or we would not. That's a board decision, right, whether we were to withhold it or not.
Yeah,
The
and I would
question is
recommend
legally,
not
we
to
would-
withhold it.
Right, right, but is that the legal recommendation, or does the law say we cannot
Well, I don't think
withhold
we
it?
have legal grounds
Okay.
to withhold the money from them. They have a right to the money
Okay.
they were supposed to get for this year.
Okay, and that's how those two questions are related. If the legal advice is to not withhold any money from St. Cloud Prep, right, then the legal advice would be the same for ACCA, both of which are gonna have to go through the similar audit, right, coming up due to their closure or surrender or whatever. Their timeline is different because they have a different, yes, yes. So, how much money is St. Cloud Prep going to receive?
They would be
I can answer that question.
better able to tell you. what-
Two more payments of 107,000 each.
So 214,000 is what you have?
Correct.
And what do you owe your employees?
We pay, our payroll is 96,000 per week, but that's only going to get them current through June 15th, not the June 30th FTE payment.
And so have you guys already committed to paying the employees with the money that you're receiving?
Whatever money that we receive is going to go to the employees. The question really is July is concerned for everybody, not June.
And they're not going to receive any more money from the state?
Excuse me, August 15th, the intention of August 15th was going to be the last
Wanna come to the
paycheck,
podium, sir?
July 31st.
Sir, for public record purposes, do you want to come to the podium? So, I mean, grab beyond public comment.
So the original intention of the August 15th final paycheck was for July 31st because we paid two weeks in the arrears. In addition to that, we were also going to try to cover insurance through the end of August by trying to prepay insurance for 2 months. The expense for that was going to be about $50,000. The insurance company came back and said, if you're no longer an entity as of June 30th and all your employees are considered terminated, by law, the carrier cannot cover employees after that date. So our hands are tied over there. So the only other option that we were looking at every single different avenue, was to try to make some COBRA payments or try to have some additional money. If we knew that there was going to be some funding coming in July, we would try to supplement their paychecks with COBRA benefits. But the problem with COBRA benefits, they're about $1,400 per employee, and you have to cover 2 months. So that's $3,000 per employee times 36 employees. So that's a lot of money. That's $90,000 roughly. So those were the options that we were looking at. We had every good intention to try to make right by these employees, but unfortunately, the district told us as of June 30th, because fiscal year ends June 30th, you are not receiving any additional funding.
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly you can understand their position. They're going to be upset, right?
Yes, sir.
I would want to hide my address also, you know? I mean, obviously.
I mean, I've been personally slandered on Facebook for the entire weekend by many different websites, so I mean, I understand they're upset.
Yeah, they're going to be upset, right? I mean, I don't know, I don't know that background. Absolutely, they're going to, but I do know, like, I have not met you. I do know Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher is a good human being. There's no reason for me to believe that you guys are attempting to harm these people, right? So, here's the thing. It's really our role. There is none. There's none for the school board, right? But here, I mean, the public, you guys can obviously, understanding, being sympathetic with the people who are there, you guys can just be open and forthcoming with them with what the situation is and say, this is where we're at, this is all we have, and maybe take their input into how that money gets dispersed, because you guys really are in the same boat, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're a member of our community, right? So, I mean, it's kind of like a bad juju, situation where no fault of you guys. In fact, if there's fault, for me, with all the, like I said, with all the charter schools changing hands and stuff, and all this stuff going on with the charters, here's what it appears like. Okay, I'm not saying that this is true, but certainly someone can derive the conclusion that we're failing our charters because our charters are failing. Certainly, we have the population to have your school full, to have ACCA full, to have every school full, right? And our schools are overfilled. So there's something that's going on that's not good. I can't speak for how you guys manage your school, obviously, but I can speak for the fact that the population for these schools is there. The seats are needed. If it weren't for charter schools, we would be outside of our statutory requirements for classroom sizes, all right? So it's 4 schools in the very condensed period of time, right? There's the Victory Charter School on 192, right? That's what it is now, is Victory. ACCA, St. Cloud Prep, I can't remember what the other one was. I wrote them down trying to think of which all the schools were. But that's four charters in a very short period of time. I mean, I think that the district itself maybe needs to get if a school is failing, we should know far in advance, right? So how are they getting to the point that they are now? How is ACCA getting to the point that they got? How are these things occurring without us knowing or being prepared for it, so that we don't have teachers here, having to beg for insurance for her child that's going to be born in 2 months?
Because I can respond to it. First, let me tell you, I just called quietly and checked with our chief financial officer. No payments are being withheld to any charter school. All right? That's one.
At all? Not ESSER funds, not anything that they've been promised?
I can't speak to ESSER. I don't know about ESSER. I know that the FT funds are.
Okay, well, I don't want to be like a semantics issue where if I'm not smart enough to know exactly this fund, here, this name here, are they being withheld any money at all?
I'll ask her that in a minute. But here's the other question, the other comment. The district is not failing. If you knew the degree to which we support and help these charters, in fact, we work with you guys
very much
so closely every year to help them stay afloat.
This is not new for this school.
Right, and the board was apprised of the fact there were issues financially.
So how long was it occurring?
Well, I can tell you, since joining the board as a volunteer, they came in and they had financial issues at that point. And I'm obviously I've been there 4.5 years, almost 5 years. But I think it started and began with a contractor issue of building, and they lost money. And it was just a bad contractor deal. But the bigger part is now, we would continue with next year if the landlord would have allowed us a lease. I can't in good conscience say, yeah, I'm going to sign a year lease, and then them have the option of pulling that, selling it in the middle of the year. And then where are these teachers at?
Yeah.
They're in November.
4 years, I think that proves my point. So even before you got there, 4 years is a long time.
Absolutely.
To end up here. So there's been nothing that has changed the trajectory of the school.
But
And
the
not
school
just-
district has helped quite a bit in that and kept us.
We worked very closely
very
with them
closely.
because the community wanted it to survive.
Absolutely.
It got to the point. The second problem is, you are forced, Mr. Thacker, you know this well, because you are forced to approve charter contracts, which a diligent business person would never approve, because the legislature was so hell-bent on letting charter schools get created everywhere. And then we get stuck with, like when they had the hockey charter school years ago. All right, we know what happens now, and I can tell you all the school board attorneys talk about it. If we deny a charter application, it goes to Tallahassee, and with rare exception, they go, we're reversing you. We have to pay the attorney's fees, and then we get the charter, all right? A lot of these charter companies, not a lot, There are very good ones, like Academic and Charter Schools USA, that we have a great relationship with. There's a lot where people open them because they think they're going to make money, all right? And they're one-offs, and they don't get the students, they don't provide the students, et cetera. And it is not under the legislative scheme for the school district. And then we get banged, by the way, if we overwatch them. We get told by Tallahassee, that's not your role. So we have a staff that works very closely with the charter schools, that helps them with all security stuff. We're the ones that got the sheriff and everything to agree to have the SROs at the time. We consider them one of our schools. They're not one of our schools financially.
Right.
They're the state's.
They're our students.
But this is and our students, this is a very complex paradigm. And for example, one of the charter schools we're dealing with, look at their track record across the state. What got talked to here, where they've been kicked out, all right? I mean, I could have told you, predicted some of this stuff. I'm looking at a letter right now, you brought it up, from their financial entity saying, based upon the lack of money, we see no way you survive. We're going to work through the end of the month and that's it. So at the end of the day, this is horrible because there are victims, and it's the teachers and the employees. But at the end of the day, this is not the entity that has the role to financially fix that.
And I'll agree with you, Mr. Krumbacher. 4.5 years that I've been there, the school district has had a representative of almost every one of our school board meetings to help us when we strayed, and they said, no, you can't do that. Financially, they've helped us. So they have kept us afloat. If it wasn't for the district, this could have been an ending
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
we came close to shutting down 2 years ago, 2 weeks before the New Year.
Yeah.
And
So I can't say it's not the district.
We had to work hand in hand with our landlord, and really that's where it kind of all started. We were in a lease agreement that was completely bogged down our financials. It was $70,000 to $113,000 a month that they wanted. We stopped paying as much rent that they need. We were paying $70,000 payments for the past year and a half. We accrued, tons of debt just because of that. Prior to that, during the bond negotiation, we stopped paying rent altogether because we were having to fund trying to refinance the school and own it, so our mortgage would go down. So then that current landlord at the time sued our school for almost $1 million. We had to give up $750,000. 100% of our PPE money went directly to our landlord, and they put a judgment against us for another $500,000. And then they sold the building to the current owner for $4 million when they bought it. It's owned by Performance Management, Hawkins Construction Group. So they sold it in December for $4 million when they bought it for 4 years ago. To Mike's point earlier, they got into a bad negotiating deal, or a bad contract, and now they're going to take that property and turn it into multi-purpose, multifamily, residential, whatever. So, and they made that very clear to us.
That's not our state rep, Fred Hawkins, right?
No, it's a Hawkins Construction Group.
Well, they made it very clear that they've had offers on the table to sell. So it's like,
And they're going to put another charter school in there, right?
No, they're going to put multifamily
multifamily
housing, because there's condos and apartments that are across the street that have already built. They bought the school, they told us they were going to work with us, they said they were going to give us rent alleviation. We started staffing up, we hired a whole admin team, we hired a bunch of people, we tried to staff up as much as we could. We've spent $50,000 in curriculum, we gave all of our teachers raises, we asked for the lease agreement in January, didn't get it. We asked in February, we didn't get it. We asked in March, we didn't get it. End of April, we got all this documentation, and everything on the documentation was riddled with language that basically said, we will extend potentially for 1 more year if you choose to surrender the property in an amicable relationship to surrender the property in an ample amount of time, which is a very vague term. And by the way, if we want to repurpose the building, we may help you try to go find other properties. One of them being American Academy. The gentleman that just spoke. The problem is that footprint wouldn't work for our school, nor could we afford their rent, which I believe was like close to $75,000 a month as well. So, and in the meantime, the community has heard for the past 2 years that St. Cloud Prep is going to be closing, whether we close or not, which we didn't. Rumor mills and Facebook and social media. So our enrollments went in 1.5 years, went from 535 students to where we currently ended the school year at 416 students. That's a significant drop in funding.
Well, I'm just going to say two final things here. One, I appreciate the fact that you think that the district is helping you. I'm glad that you feel
In
that
this
way,
case,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
At the same time, I feel like sometimes it's not about your emotion that tells you whether somebody's helping you. Sometimes it's the result, right? So that's just my opinion. The result tells you whether somebody's helping you or not. The other thing is, are you gonna, in the end, are you gonna get with these teachers and are you gonna like make them apprised of the situation and then try to work something out with them so that they feel like you did the best that you can? You know,
I mean, we've communicated as much as we could. We were transparent. We gave them an email trail of, the emails that I sent to the district, Sarah Graber. I sent an email out. There's only so much money that's available to pay them. So we're going to do the best we can to make do with what we have. But we also have to work with our attorney to figure out what we're going to do with the other vendors. Because what's going to happen is the food service company is going to file suit. The current person that we have to pay because the bond went sour 2 years ago, we're paying them $2,500 a month. So we owe about 27 grand to them. We owe the current printer company. They're going to get their equipment back, but they said there's still a lease for 2 years, so they want us to make do on that.
Why pay those
That's
people
27
before
grand.
then?
Of course,
Right.
which we're not
We
going to
get
do.
that, yeah.
We get that.
So even if there's
So-
nothing left over, then those people, they're entities, they'll survive or they won't survive, but certainly they are in a.
So my question to the board then is, whatever money's left, even if it's above and beyond, because we're being told that we have to pay them for budgeted items. So budgeted items means everybody's salaries for that particular pay period. So if I want to pay and we want to pay whatever's left over additional, bonus them, give them whatever, give them stipends, whatever. I want the permission from the board of Osceola County to say, yes, we can pay stipends, whatever money is left over, we can divvy up to the teachers, regardless if it's a budgeted item, means regardless if it's above and beyond their
That is not the
projected
role.
salary.
I've told you on the call, that is not this board's responsibility, it's your board's responsibility.
Okay.
The only time it becomes this board's responsibility, if you want to make an expenditure of $10,000 or more, that's not already allocated or accounted for in your annual budget.
Right.
And I told you that I don't think teacher salaries are outside the annual budget.
Right.
So it's your call.
But bonuses might be. Right? Like a teacher's bonus would be outside the budget. So if.
That was my whole point to my
And
question.
they ask us
Yes.
if we will approve an expenditure larger than $10,000 for a teacher budget, which you pay to them,
That was the whole point to my question.
Yes.
I can support something like that.
I can support that.
Let me share some with you. Let's not call it bonuses that ignites Tallahassee. If you say this is based upon the performance that's been done, et cetera, it's much better.
Then
Stipend.
A stipend, right.
Severance pay even?
I think trying to get COBRA benefits for 2 months, trying to figure out what that calculation is and trying to allocate so people at least have insurance and giving them that money to pay for COBRA for 2 months.
I would
be-
give them the cash. I think that they would let them.
Or let them figure out what they
Yeah,
want to do.
Let them figure it out, and, this is just my opinion, this is not legal advice, certainly. I'm just saying that, these are members of your community, they're with you. Here's the thing, they're upset, right? He's trying, right? You guys can acknowledge that he's trying, he's not the bad guy. I'm the one who always gets called the bad guy everywhere, so it's not him, he's not the boogeyman, he's trying. And I know Mr. Fisher, and Mr. Fisher has a good heart. I know that he's going to try. I can see that your guys' effort is to come here try. Most people wouldn't have had the guts to come here at all.
Thank you.
I don't see their principal here.
So, I appreciate that. I think that you guys should just go into the lobby and get on the same page with one another and let them do best by you. If we can, I don't know if we can. Is that considered an emergency?
I will tell you this, I will consider it legally emergency for this reason. If you go out and come back in and make a request tonight, Madam Chair, and add it to the agenda, because if word gets out what you're trying to do, you may have some vendor run into court tomorrow to lock up both.
I'll make a motion.
And so, why don't you figure out what you want to ask? Run it, I'll get with you, run it by me so it reads right to protect the board and members of the board. And Madam Chair, I'd recommend you say based upon an emergency, you're going to add it to the agenda.
Sure. I I agree to that.
Are we doing that at this meeting or the next meeting?
This meeting, so you go out and figure out
We
exactly
still
what.
need to approve the surrender of the charter.
Yes, and you should do that now.
I will make that motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Thacker, second by Mr. Melendez for 18.04. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. We will see you under new business. Thank you.
We need a motion.
Thank you.
I motion to put a new item on your
New
Yeah, we will
business.
when we come back.
When we come back.
Could I read something into the record, please?
Sure, go ahead.
This is from Adam Emerson. This is you guys.
Oh.
The Executive Director of the Office of Independent Education and Parental Choice at the Florida Department of Education. Dear Mr. Gotts, who appeared tonight.
They're not leaving though, right? They're not.
No,
gonna-
no,
so
no.
they're gonna go
The Commissioner's Office at the Department of Education received your letter of May 18th stating that American Classical Charter Academy was in a deteriorating financial condition. The Commissioner's Office has asked me to respond. In the letter, you explained why the school is in a deteriorating financial condition and requested that the Commission review your financial corrective plan pursuant to State Board Education Rule 6A 1.0081 FAC. First, there is little in the way of a corrective action plan in your communication. Page 2 of your letter seems to indicate that the school is requesting money from the district as well as another $370,000 from what source it isn't clear to pay back rent and penalties. But even if you did present a viable corrective action plan pursuant to the rule, it is clear the sponsor must agree with that corrective action plan, and the Commissioner will ultimately review that. No such agreement is evident. We have asked, we have told them what we would want in a corrective action plan. We have not gotten that, so when someone stands here and talks about us not doing anything, I'm going to say it here. I have the emails to their lawyer. Here's what is needed in a corrective action plan for a charter school. We have not gotten it, and I have evidence here. The state of Florida has told them what they presented was not a corrective action plan. So I just want to correct the misinformation that was put out there.
Thank you.
But they were on a corrective action plan, I thought.
No.
They were on a plan, certainly, they were on a plan.
They
'cause we saw it
misled
was from our
everybody.
district.
They misled everybody to say that they had 1 year under a corrective action plan. They were never under a corrective action plan with this district that gave them a 1 year period.
Thank you,
But they
Mr.
were under a
Kaltenbacher.
corrective action plan. Not at all, ever.
No, not that I'm aware of, not at the time we were, terminating.
Thank you, Mr. Kaltenbacher. I will go ahead and start calling folks for public comments. Mr. Allen, Blair Allen. Okay, Mr. Greg Garris.
Greg Garris, 3203 Lake Erie Drive, St. Cloud, Florida, 34769. Well, we made it through the last day of school. Now, I know that summer school is starting, so that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But I think that it's been a really, really difficult year. Like, when I think back to when we were doing the quarantine presence and we were sending the kids home with their devices and expecting them to do work, and I put everything on Teams like a good teacher does, and they didn't do any work, we were told to show compassion and grace. My question tonight to the board and to the administration is, where is the compassion and where is the grace for the teachers? I have been an employee of this district for 16 years, and I have grown accustomed that when my contract is done, and I do my final check, and I submitted my final check, when I used to give that final check to Dr. Allen, I got my paychecks, physical paychecks. Oh, but times moved on, and now we get them. We're supposed to get them electronically. Oh, but wait, not this year. I'm still waiting for my money. The the school district of Osceola County has been sitting on 4 paychecks for every single teacher that elects to have 24 pays. Now, it's in the portal. Finally, the last check showed up yesterday after 3 o'clock. I don't mean to tell you, but some teachers already contacted me because they were nervous. Why am I not showing 4 checks? Where's my summer money? That's what they want to know. I understand that there have been some issues where teachers have left the district and the district has somehow overpaid them, and so they needed to hold a check. But I don't understand holding 4 of my checks, especially when I have over 6 weeks of leave time that I have accrued with this district. I don't know why you're holding my money. And I think this year, of all years, this was not the time to try to do this change. The other thing is, it's supposed to happen again next year. I'm not supposed to get paid. Now, when I have my yard mowed, I pay my guy right away. I don't understand why for teachers, this is somehow different. Thank you.
Why is that? Why did that happen?
Dr. Pace, yeah.
Dr. Pace, are you still there? Because I know that Sarah Graham's not here.
I am here. The payroll calendar has not changed since it was published at the beginning of the school year, but I will follow up with the team and get some additional information.
Did you get your funds released? Are they still being held?
They will be released at 12:01 tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pace. Please follow up and let us know what the situation is and how we can possibly avoid it for next year. Ms. Z. Nelly Hernandez.
Good evening. Zinelli Hernandez, 2929 Moonstone Bend, Kissimmee. We are living in wow times. Seeing what I have seen these last 5 to 6 months, especially witnessing our last meeting here last month, all I can say is wow. But tonight, I want to share a wow message, which stands a word of wisdom for the wise. Because our young people are truly in trouble. You know that? I know that. Every day I see it. This is the word of wisdom. Your rewards in life are determined by the problems you solve for others. Mike Murdoch said that. He's my wisdom mentor. Your rewards in life are determined by the problems you solve for others, and we have a lot of problems being discussed here and in the community. So we need favor to be able to solve these problems. We need favor from people, and we need favor from God to solve uncommon problems, today's uncommon problems. Uncommon favor births uncommon success. Uncommon favor is when God causes someone to desire to become a problem solver in your life, or you solve somebody else's problem in their lives. Uncommon favor always begins with you when you solve an uncommon problem for someone. Our young people are in trouble more than ever. And we need God's supernatural favor and divine intervention to really be able to help them. I would encourage you to call upon the Lord. If you think you have the answers to all these problems that we're facing, you're wrong. We need divine intervention. We need help. We need wisdom, knowledge, and understanding so that we can solve these massive uncommon problems that we're facing today and our children are facing today. God bless you.
Luis Rivera.
I'm not going to block your logo. Okay. Does this come off?
Sure.
That should just pull straight out.
You guys look tired. Louis Rivera, 3078 Point Place Avenue, Kissimmee, Florida. My mom and dad have a favorite show, and I'm just going to paraphrase what the main character said. Do you know what they call a husband that loses a wife? Widower? Do you know what they call a child that loses a parent? An orphan? But do any of you know what they call a parent that loses a child? I hear there's no word for it. The pain is so profound that there's not one. But if you know one, please share it. The reason I'm speaking to you today is because I have little faith in the board when it comes to safety and security, and I also want to share why my kid did not attend the last day of school. I also want to let you know that I have a lot of love for law enforcement, and it's probably one of the reasons I don't have a lot of friends. Second, I've been to a lot of board meetings. I've shared a lot of stories, solutions, and statistics, stories, but not today. Today I'm just going to rant and complain. What prompts me to speak today is that I called the district on the last day of school asking them, do you have any protocols for students that are, or parents that are scared to send their kids to school the last day? I did get a call back, and I was told that you guys had extra security, but that's temporary. Why does this concern me? Let me put it into context. Over a year ago, a couple years ago, my child attended one of the schools here in Osceola County. Here's a map of it, and as you can tell, there's the entrance, and this is where your SRO posts themselves. And as I talked to a couple of parents, I understand that this SRO continues to leave the school at time of dismissal, all for the buses. So let me ask you guys, are you okay to have a SRO outside of the school, which all these tragic events have been happening at the time of dismissal, at least the last two? But he's got a walkie-talkie, so your kid is okay. You have a walkie-talkie, so you're fine. I can tell you that's what worries me, and that's what scares me. That is your standard in some of your schools, but that's been going on for a long time. And the only reason I bring it up is because of what happened in Texas. I had brought this up to you guys. I brought this up to the school, and I was ignored. I don't even have enough time to talk.
Was the second one, there's two SROs at that school, though? Is the
Yeah.
one posted at
So my question to you is, and I'll end because I only have 20 seconds. I thank God that nothing's happened at the school, but do you think that it's more important the safety of the school versus the buses leaving in a timely manner? Because that's what the SR is there for, to let the buses go. I don't know about you, but I want to put as many people, especially a sheriff. I would love to have that sheriff stand by that door and protect my kid.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Would you mind if we did this afterwards?
Yes, I can wait that.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
Mark Peters.
Good evening, board. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You said it so low, Mr. Peters. I didn't quite get it. Good, my name is Mark Peters, 4315 Beale Court, Kissimmee. I want to, say to the board, thank you guys for what you do each day. I know it's not easy. You get criticized, you get called names. That guy was here standing up and said, blasted on social media. I guess you guys are accustomed to that because you're not saying it, but I'm sure you have been. Good, bad, whatever happens, People come up here like me, telling you things about yourself, because all we know about you is what you're here and what you do, your actions. But one thing I need to tell you guys, and there's a poem, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words, they don't hurt me. That's a big lie. That's what, everything that's happening here is words, right? But words have a lot of effect, because words get into contracts. Words is everything. Our kids go to school because that's words is coming into them. And what are they being taught? How they carry themselves. Our district have our kids for 7+ hours. They go home, the parents see them maybe 2, because parents are working a lot of hours. So what you guys put into them is what they carry home. And now the dysfunction in the homes, sometimes coming because of the school pushing things into them that is not about 2 + 2 or English, grammar, or all these things. It's so much other stuff that they have to deal with, and the school is allowing it. Now you ask any teachers, and they will say there is not an order in schools anymore. It seems like the inmates are running the asylum. Well, I'm not saying that students are inmates, but kind of you get that, what I'm saying. The students are running the school. Teachers are afraid to act, to correct them because of backlash. And so much of that is not supported by the district with teachers when it comes to teachers. So kids go home and they take that mindset that they can rule the home, so order is not in the home either. And then parents get bad name that they're not good parents, they're shitty parents, some people say that word. So my kid's gonna hear this and say, you said that word? Okay, but that's what they get when they get labeled. But they're good parents and bad parents. But when kids come home with 7 hours of being indoctrinated in something else other than schoolwork, it travels with them. They absorb it and they push it out back. And so when homes are disrupted, it's because of what they're getting from school. So when we teach kids about things like pornography is okay, certain things are okay, what we're doing is killing their innocence. Real quickly, suicide, you briefly touched it. Suicide is tremendously happening within our students and nobody's addressing it. They talked about the killing of kids in Texas, which we all grieve about. But 12 kids each day die from suicide. And for each child that died for suicide, there's 100 that's contemplating killing themselves. Yes. This is not being handled. And it's always, but parents get blamed, all these other things, but school is to be blamed too.
We appreciate it.
Outside, does anybody know?
Who is it?
Laura McAdams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Laura McAdams. My address is 4654 Hickory Tree Lane, St. Cloud, Florida, 34772. Also the address of my friendly female Doberman dog, if you'd like to pay me a visit. Today I'm just here to make a public service announcement regarding private school education. Parents, I just want them to know that there is scholarships out there that do provide for a lot of money for you to send your children to private schools. They're called the Hope Foundation, Step Up for Students, McKay Foundation. You can apply for those scholarships and they will provide you pretty much full tuition for you to go to private schools. So if you need to pull your kids out of public schools, please feel free to call me. My number is 954-268-5421. And also, I don't know why we're closing down these charter schools, because at the end of the day, there's a ton of students out there that don't have schools to go to, and a ton of building going on in St. Cloud from what I'm seeing in Osceola County as a whole, because I'm in real estate. So I see all that going on and a ton of residents moving here. So I don't see any schools going up, and we're shutting down schools, and I don't know if we're replacing them with other schools or public schools or any education at all. So I don't know where some of these students are going to end up going, but, I think it's something that we should dig deeper into and maybe see if the finances can be found somewhere and help some of these families out, because there's a ton of families moving to Florida on a daily basis, and there's not enough schools to be putting these kids into. So, and they're not going up quickly enough, so. But I just wanted to announce that, and then let me go ahead and say it in Spanish too. Padres y estudiantes que quieren ir a la escuela privada, sí hay programas para que les den dinero del gobierno para que sus estudiantes puedan atender escuelas privadas, y se lo pagan casi entero para el año para que sus estudiantes no se queden en las escuelas públicas, porque realmente no son muy buenas en esta county. So, si quieren contactarme, mi nombre es Laura McAdams y mi número de teléfono es 954-268-5421. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ms. McAdams. Tamiel Telfair.
Good evening. My name is Travion Telfair. My address is 2120 Preston Lane, Kissimmee, Florida. I wanted to come here and talk about what really matters the most, and that's the students of this district. And I just want to, kind of acknowledge, how the board acts, and how you expect the students to respect administration, but you guys can't even get along within your own school board. So how do you expect for students to respect administration when clearly you have students, I have students who message me and they laugh at you guys because there's no type of discipline. It's not about the politics. It's about the students of this community. Let me say it again, the students of this community. And it's not about allegations. We're not in DC. This is not a Supreme Court. Because if I recall, if the governor is going to review one person, he's going to review all. It's not one-sided. We need to play this thing fair, and we need to play it fair immediately. And I just want to say it's time to tighten up as a school board. There's no reason that you guys should be arguing arguing with each other and pens getting thrown on the ground. That is unacceptable, completely. Now let's tighten up and let's get it together. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Rodriguez?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Mike Rodriguez. Address 2608 Cahokia Court, Kissimmee 34744. Now, it's my first time attending your board here, and I've been observing this evening everyone and everything that was said. I noticed a lot of money has been spent. You all went through a list and you all just spent, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars just during this meeting. And then I listen to these folks, teachers, students. These are children, okay? And then you start nitpicking as to what this charter school can do financially instead of stepping up and helping the charter school. But you come up with all these legal and blaming Tallahassee. Really? You really want to blame Tallahassee? I heard it. I was paying attention. Now, I moved here, my family moved here in 1988 from Puerto Rico. I'm in my 40s now. I attended Central Florida schools, public schools, and had a nice experience. But there's something weird, there's something odd going on with administrators, teachers, and obviously the school board. Because you spent a lot of money tonight while I sat here, and then you negated and brought up all these things to try to close a school when the charter school, when the miss also that came up here presenting her number so parents can have a choice to go to private schools, which I attended in Puerto Rico as a child, Catholic private school that taught us morals and ethics. And when I moved here, I learned English in my first half year in 4th grade. And I took all AP, I took all honors classes all through high school, graduated at the top 5% of my class. I don't know what's happening, but y'all need, not y'all, I'm just saying, the school board needs to pay attention to what you're all doing, because we're all paying attention. This is my first time here, and it won't be the last. Because I observed and I listened. And I'm seeing about $1.5 million in salaries here. That's what I'm assuming. That's what I'm assuming, because I know what teachers and administrators get paid. Anyways, get back to God and get back to ethics, because we're paying attention.
1.5 million is just in.
Good evening, Debbie Mann, 1180 Sungrove Lane, St. Cloud, Florida. I just had a few questions. After watching the library book workshop this afternoon, I had a couple questions about the new book access policy. I understand that a few books brought to the board's attention publicly have already been pulled for review. When the books were pulled, I'm just wondering if they were also pulled from the classroom libraries, because it is known that some of the teachers have copies of these exact titles in their classroom libraries, or if they were just pulled from the school libraries. So I wondered how that was being handled. I was told that the access policy default will be full access unless proper steps are taken by a parent. Being a parent and a teacher, as long as I have, knowing how many things parents get from school to read and fill out, this just gives them one more thing to do. The more effective approach would be for no access to be the default, and parents can sign for children to have other levels of access. Just like when I, as a teacher, want to show a PG or a PG-13 movie in my classroom, the procedure is to send out a permission slip to allow access. This will also protect the children that do not have an involved support system at home. If access is desired, then it's in the hands of the student and/or parents to do the legwork to get it done. Again, this is not about banning books. This is about using taxpayer funds to buy age inappropriate and lewd materials, some of which possibly violate state statutes. Anyone is welcome to go to the public library, bookstore, Amazon, get whatever books they want for their children. To refer back to the earlier conversation, either the words are troublesome or not. There is no difference between library materials or anything else inside the realm of our schools. If the key words or concepts are the same, they violate the guidelines, they violate them. It doesn't matter if they come from the computer, video, individual, or a book. In the end, this is about protecting children within the walls of our schools from things that their minds are not prepared for yet. Thank you.
Yes.
We have Pastor Adanais Morales.
Good evening, my name is Adianis Morales, 4555 West Earlo Bronson Memorial Highway. And I'm here to voice my concerns as of why almost 3 months ago, we had a group of parents here come and read to all of you pornographic material. And up till today, you're still deciding how many of those books are going to be removed, how they're going to be removed, and still working on the procedures of the first place, how did they get there? And we still don't have any clarity about it. So while the debate goes on and on, what are we going to do? What's going to happen in August? Are we going to go back to coming here for a whole year, every 2 weeks, talking about the same things? How come these books are still in the libraries? It has become a political chess game. We see it here every 2 weeks. We see your faces, the rolling of the eyes, the cattiness. It has to stop. We're expecting a lot more from all of you. You represent all of us. Ms. Castillo, I'm ashamed to tell you that I'm appalled by the fact that you continue to defend certain books because they are literary pieces, and that just because they have one page that has some material that is inappropriate, we should consider because they're literary pieces. I'm sorry, but if it's pornography, it's pornography. Not one page, not one line, not one word. It is age inappropriate. They need to be out. We don't pay you to hear your opinions about your literary styles. You get paid to serve us and to make sure that our children are safe. Thank you.
Amen.
Mr. Kroppenbacher, do you have any comments for us?
No, I just, to the extent the last person spoke, I'd like a list of what books. I know there's a number of books that have been pulled, but I'd like a list of the books that are still in our libraries, and so I can match them up. Are we getting filing or not?
Only 4 books have been removed out of 100 of the list. That is common knowledge. The list is out there.
If you can give it to me, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. I do not have any unfinished business. Under new business, we have the election or the appointment from one of the board members to represent us at the FSBA committee under advocacy. So I would entertain anybody who would like to either volunteer or nominate another board member to that committee.
We're also going to add under new business.
I'm going in order. Thank you.
I appoint Terry Castillo to be the FSBA representative.
Thank you.
1 second.
We don't need to.
Oh, we didn't, I'm sorry.
Unless somebody is opposed to
Force
me
to
being
have
the member, I am
Alright.
currently on that board. I would gladly continue to do that. I appreciate doing that work. Does anybody have any issues with that or would like to nominate themselves? Great, thank you. Under new business, we also have.
You need an alternate as well, please?
Oh, sure. Is anybody really passionate about being the alternate for that?
I'll be the alternate.
Thank you. Thank you, Julius, for volunteering for that.
I already sit on that committee, so.
This is for next year.
Oh, next year. Well, I mean, I sit on that committee, okay.
You want to be the alternate?
You can still,
No,
yeah.
I
you
sit on there,
He
not
sits on it
as
now,
here.
but we have to nominate a new person every year. And it's due, I think, because we have to like approve it during conference that we're going to. Thank you. Did you want to be alternate or no?
I'm already on it, not appointed from the board.
You will not be on it. You were appointed. We appointed you last year. You will not be on it after.
No, it's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next thing on new business is the resolution to the charter school. Did you guys want to address that, or Mr.
Madam
Pappenbacher?
Chair, I met with the charter school outside. They are requesting approval to make sure they're safe, that nobody can say they violated this. They are requesting approval to spend the remaining dollars they have on the teacher salaries.
Instructional only.
Instructional only. They will not be paying dollars.
Admin or staff.
To admin or non-teaching educational staff.
With the exception of allocating 8,000 to the audit, the
Yeah,
fiscal
we
audit.
gotta
So we
get
need
the
to
school
allocate that.
So we have a motion by Mr. Arguello to approve the charter schools allocation of funds. Does everybody understand what they're proposing? Mr. Thacker, you have a question?
I have a question for council. I guess my only concern would be if this thing goes down ultimately a bankruptcy path with their creditors. Are we putting ourselves at any risk by allowing this to happen? Because
No, you do not have any financial responsibility for a charter school. Right? And somebody may try and drag us into something, but.
Well, that's what I just want to make sure by giving them
And
this.
you need to be prepared.
I'm all for this. I hope
You
you
need
think
to
this
be
is.
prepared.
Now, there's
You
a
may
mo-
have vendors of theirs showing up here, but at the end of the day, they want to pay their instructional employees first. And basically, your motion, I want the record to reflect is, you're approving and have no objection to their plan. I mean, it's not illegal. Now, you can't do it till we get a letter out to you this week.
Correct.
There has to be a written letter confirming the approval under the statute, so we'll get that.
Does the motion have to be a little bit more specific
Yeah,
to
I
say
think the
that
motion
it
was
allows
good.
it to exceed the allocated amount that was budgeted this year?
Yeah, no, the motion, by doing it, you automatically have done it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure,
No,
because
but I
that was where
appreciate you
authority
pointing
comes
that
in.
out, so we clarify that.
The window for bankruptcy is 90 days anyway, right?
Well, actually, I don't think a charter school, a public entity can file for bankruptcy under the law, but the reality is, there's nothing there.
It would be 90 days
If
regardless.
somebody tried to involuntarily kick him into bankruptcy, you can't get blood out of a turnip.
I get that.
So I have
It's the right thing, it's honorable.
Is there a second?
You guys would get it.
I'll second it.
I'll second
There was never a
it.
second.
I want to emphasize this to you. I was just told they have 2 custodians, they have some non-instructional people. Be prepared if one of them comes here and says, why did you leave us out, et cetera. Just want you to know that. I'm not telling you not to support it, I'm just, you know.
I mean, that's
their decision.
Really, in the end, it's, what we're doing is allowing you guys the flexibility to pay your people.
Right,
And
the instructional staff.
Right.
Now, you're going to have to get your board to approve that.
Yeah, I just had a discussion with Tammy, but yes, we will.
I have a motion by Mr. Melendez, a second by Mr. Thacker. Mr. Arguello, thank you. Oh, I apologize.
No, but if somebody from the public wants to speak on the voting,
I would let them speak because this was
I'd like to speak. My name is Andrew Jennis, 619 Indiana Avenue. My wife actually is an admin. She's a paraprofessional at the school, and this entire year she's substituted, so I don't think that ruling works well. She can actually speak right here, right now.
Does that cover her? I'm asking you guys.
There's only five positions, I believe, that are non-administrative.
John, you just, sir, you just mentioned we're getting the authority to be able to take whatever funds is left and allocate it to the staff. So.
No.
Are you saying?
I am saying what Mr. Fisher told me.
It's instructional only.
Now, if you wanted to allocate it to the staff, that is totally different. We're going to have to modify this motion because they were approving your plan to just pay the instructional people.
Correct.
Now, you could define instructional people as including paraprofessionals because they're supporting the teachers. And that would, if you want to clarify that.
So let me clarify it because I probably should have done it at the very beginning. And I think that the intention of everyone here, the intention of you guys, the intention of the two of you is to be able to pay the professionals who are holding the school together, right? And so my motion is to allow you guys the flexibility to pay the people who work at your school according to you. We're trusting you, they're trusting you, so that you guys use your best judgment to pay your people that are at the school.
That's your motion. So
That's my motion.
Does the second agree to modify the motion to be that motion?
That's you, Julie.
Oh, that was me? Oh, yeah, okay.
If you agree to that, then
Now it's Julius?
Yes.
that is the motion, which gives you the flexibility regarding staff.
And where is this going on the agenda?
New
New
business.
business, it's been
Yeah,
added. It's an
but the
emergency
flexibility
item
with
added.
staff, but that does not include admin though. Because I think they made it clear that they didn't want to.
Correct. That's
Not
correct.
include admin, anybody under admin.
Right.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Arguello, a second by Mr. Melendez. Board, all those in favor? Aye.
Madam Chair, can I ask one question? So I'm trying to think if this is moving. How do you define admin?
Executive director, principal.
Assistant principal, dean.
Principal, dean.
Guidance counselor, business managers, like,
Janitors?
they're non-instructional, they're non-classroom, so, it's a fine line, right?
I was going to say, but at the end of the day, it's our board that would have to
They give
decide.
you the authority to spend the money on staff. You've got to go deal with it.
Right.
Can I ask one more question to the board? Can we, for the last two FTE payments that we're going to be receiving, is there a way for the Osceola County School District to withhold and give us the full amount, net of the district fee? Because every time we get an FTE payment, we get 2.5% taken away from us. Can we get the full funding amount for the last two payments?
You're not getting the 8,000 that we need to hold back for the audit.
No, I understand it. I'm talking about for the two remaining payments, because we're going to pay, the next two payments are going to be paid directly to the employees, what's left. But if we withhold the district admin fee, if you guys allow us to not deduct that from our
Are
FTE
we allowed to
payment,
do that?
it would actually give a little bit more money to
Yeah,
us.
you can waive it.
I'm
What?
down for that.
Okay, 1 second, please.
Because that's like,
What
we're
is the
missing a lot of
impact,
motions.
what is the impact of withholding the 2%?
It's 170,000 each one.
107,000, so
107.
107, 214 is the last two payments.
So it's 4,000.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing.
It's one person's paycheck.
Yeah.
If it helps one person.
The impact is if you're getting another charter school going out of business.
But that's
I
what
think
I'm
we would do the
talking
same
about,
thing.
that's what I
Do
meant,
that.
what is the
I
impact?
think
Are we
we do the same thing.
going to, I guess,
I think you would evaluate that charter school, were they honorable, were they doing everything they were supposed to be doing, and it's just, they're all getting, I can tell you, the problems we're seeing with them is all because of incredible leases they cut with landlords, and the landlords are saying, pay us or get out. And that's the biggest problem we're seeing.
That's the charter school model.
I understand all of that.
Okay, so there's
The
two
cha-
motions
I'm
at
not,
stake.
I'm not finished with my thought, please. I would like to finish my thought, please.
Can we do them in separate motions then?
Yeah, we did, that's what I was, but we didn't vote.
We voted. You did vote for the first one. Passed. Madam Chairman, I'm going to make a motion. I would not recommend you do that for one reason. It is in our contract, and it does open the door to a lot of issues. And I can see it being used constantly and putting you guys in a box. I hate to say that because it's more money, but our staff's got a lot of work to do with this closing that we can fit in the middle of.
Not only that, but I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't like setting bad precedents, which is one of the reasons why I would vote against it. I also think that in lieu of, in light of, not in lieu, I apologize for using the wrong terminology. In light of the appetite of this particular board, I think that we need to take more of a lead role in what our procedures would be when this kind of thing happens. I've been on the board for 3 years. It is, however, we have seen an increase in conversations about the process, which has typically not been questioned, and I don't think that there would have been a reason to because we are following the law. However, I do think that we need to be more judicious in how we deal with these off issues because and I agree, by the way, and I'm talking to the folks from the school, I don't think anybody else cares much, but I have to think about this. I'm talking to you. I agree this is the right thing to do, 100%. But I also have a duty to the taxpayers and the other people who are not in this room to be cautious and judicious with the way that we handle these items, and we seem to be doing a lot of one-offs. And that is going to become a problem for the board. So
I don't recommend you do it. I hate to say it, but I think our contract calls for the payment. I think the staff has got an enormous amount of work to do, and it opens the door to somebody coming in and saying, would you help us and waive the 2.5% fee all the time?
Mr. Melendez and then Mr. Arguello.
Right, and I can actually appreciate both. So I'm looking at narrowing down that precedent and saying, okay, it's not every time a charter school wants to say, hey, we're in a little bit of financial trouble, waive it. I believe that if we're going to establish a precedent, it's when the charter school is in fact closing.
Right.
So when it's closing, there's obviously debts that aren't being settled. So we can help them pay. And also, the other condition would be is, number one, it's closing, and number two, they pledge to give the money to staff.
Yeah.
Not to waive the 2% so I can pay an office computer or anything like that. So I wouldn't mind establishing that precedent every time, because charter schools aren't created to close. That's not their intention. So if they're having financial trouble, then that's not the precedent we're establishing here. We're establishing doors are closing, they're not coming back. These people worked, and they want to get paid, and there's nothing to give them anything for it. So I believe that is an okay precedent to do, to say that last FTE payments are going to go only to paying staff that got unpaid. Because I'd feel more comfortable paying somebody that I know that they're not going to have a job anymore than paying staff where I know that we're going to pay them. Whether or not we collect the charter school monies or not. We'll find money to pay our staff to continue evaluating them. And I think that if we make those specific conditions, then that's a precedent that I can stand behind. Not a precedent that, okay, charter school's having financial trouble, we're not going to be bailing them out. We're giving the money to the people because they're closing, and we want to try to make them as whole as
My
possible.
concern in general is that not only are we overreaching ourselves, but we're also overreaching our responsibilities. And that honestly should give all of us pause. Whether it does and doesn't, I'm not here to make a judgment call on what you think should be done, but I do think that we're getting into interesting territory, not only with this particular situation, but other situations that have come forward in the moment We do ad hoc decisions, and we're opening ourselves up to possible issues that may even outlast this current board. And I would just be more cautious as a board, is all I'm saying. Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, I think that there's, again, like so many of the things that we've discussing, they go back to philosophy, and it's just a matter of, are we protecting the bureaucracy, or are we protecting the people that the bureaucracy serves? And so I tend to fall on one side of those things. Their bureaucracy is not nearly as important to me. The systems are not as important to me, with the exception that they provide a service to the people they're serving, and otherwise, then there's no point to it. So in this, I do understand, I think that's I'm in the agreement with the $4,000, the 2.5%. I think it would be great if it went to them, but I do understand your point. I think that's extremely valid. It's an absolute legal liability. You open the door for contracts in many respects. That's a problem, and it wouldn't be prudent. It just wouldn't be a smart decision to do that. So the $2,000 is not the issue, or the $4,000 is not the issue. It's really the issue of what it does to contracts with the district, which creates a problem which would impact the people that we serve. So, so my emotion says, yeah, it's 2.5%, right? We just spent $800,000 on just one of these contracts, so, but in the end, that creates a much larger problem. So if it were $400,000, then I would say, okay, go ahead and do it. The caveat that Mr. Melendez mentioned, that only in the instance of organization which is closing down and they're giving us their word that money is going back to the people, I would be in agreement with that. So between the two of your points, I'm absolutely in agreement.
If you're going to do it.
If you're going to do it, that's the way.
It's got to be done with that kind of a restrictive motion.
Yeah.
So it's very clear. But I will say as the lawyer, when the camel gets its nose under the tent,
No more analogies for me.
Okay. So we have a motion, and are we making the second part of that a separate motion?
We voted on the first part.
We voted on the first part. Are we entertaining a motion for the additional monies?
Subject to what?
Subject to the,
Melendez said in the motion, that it's only in the event of school closing. I'd add one other thing, and subject to the board considering that things were done properly and the employees involved weren't all doing something. I mean, you always reserve the right to find that, but I think you've encapsulated in your comments, Mr. Melendez, a way we could separate this from anything else.
Okay, I will entertain a motion, please.
Okay, so I will motion that we waive the administration fee in this case due to the fact that the organization is closing, that the board is committing to spending that money on paying its employees, and only under those circumstances.
And there's no
And based on
potential
the fact-
financial improprieties, there's no.
Based on the fact that this board and this school is deemed to have done things properly.
And I'm going to say that if we ever find an employee, that employee doesn't get it. I mean, if the teachers are teaching and they're not involved in the mismanagement of money, you're not going to punish them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Arguello. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Melendez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Aye. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Do we have anything else under new business?
Yes, we did have,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you. I forgot, I had too many things here. We talked about well, I know it's late, man, I'm getting kind of tired too, so I'll just make it quick. I had a dashboard meeting this afternoon with staff, and we were talking about what was important, and I think it was kind of neat how we talked about incorporating some of those statistics into the strategic plan. So I just didn't want to do it myself personally and directing staff to do that. So I just want to let the board know that I have direction to kind of discuss with them to figure out what we would like to look at it. And I would also invite you guys to invite them to go in there and say, hey, what statistics and measurements you would like to look at too. Like for instance, I was looking at the number of out-of-school students by school. We were looking at, okay, well, what's the number of incidents? So I had my opportunity to tell them, hey, what I want the dashboard to look like. But I want the school board too, to kind of go in there and meet with them individually too, and say, hey, what would you like to look at? You know what I mean? And then every quarter, when we do our strategic plan update, that they also look at our statistics over time and see how they're doing. Like, for instance, real quickly, like, if there's out-of-school suspensions at XYZ school, I'm not going to name them, and I see the trend line going down, I'm excited. You know what I mean? And I think right now, we're not drilling down to that level of scrutiny to see, because at the end of the day, we can say, okay, our grades are doing great, but at the end of the day, data leads you to that. You know what I mean? And so I was just really excited about what we have, and I just invite each one of the board members to do that. I just didn't want to just do too much on my own without letting the board know, because I don't want to be in violation of just like directing staff. You know what I mean? I was giving them my opinion, but I wanted to be okay with that. And the second part of that, which I'm actually excited about, and staff was excited about it too, like, for instance, we have this library here, right? There's like school library connections, and they started reporting, right? And staff was excited. I think it was Dr. Torres. She was saying they have nothing but PhDs in evaluation, and they have a bunch of writers. So I thought, hey, if I have to allocate some money to do like, we call it the trend line, you know what I mean? And they can actually publish, once a year or something like that, what's been happening at the district, you know what I mean? So like, because sometimes people might not look at the dashboard, but if we kind of say, hey, here are the highlights, and then each one of the assistant superintendents can do like their, it's not like a newsletter, it doesn't have to be a physical printed out thing, it's just be a newsletter that they do. And so I thought that'd be really cool, is for the staff to share best practices and things like that, say, hey, we lowered our out-of-school suspensions because we did this, you know what I mean? And that way, it's just basically like, kind of like a journal of medicine, but a journal of education for ourselves and our own staff, sharing data and best practices. And I thought that was really cool. And I told her, I said, you sure you want me to bring this up? Because, I think it's a great idea, but there's always going to be a little bit of work. Somebody has to put a newsletter together and things like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to burden them. And she said she liked it. I'm like, okay, cool. Now, if we do need like a graphic designer, then that's why I'm doing it here. I want to ask our community relations to support them, because they'll write it, but I don't expect them to be like layout experts and things like that. That maybe we can get community relations or some students at different schools to support that. And I just, again, I didn't want to go too far into this by myself. I wanted the rest of the board to know what I was working on, and hopefully you guys can support that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Mr. Thacker, did you have any final thoughts or
Just
comments?
a comment on that. It's just starting to feel like we're getting way out of policy and way into administration.
Well, the difference is, when we set policy, it's like, what are we measuring? And then once we get in that measurement, it's in the strategic plan. You know what I mean? And I get it, it is kind of borderline, but again, if staff was to give me, resistance, trust me, staff loves to give resistance on 10,000 ideas I have. It's just a matter of measuring it and figuring out, okay, are we meeting those measurements? So that's basically what it is.
Thank you. Board, any other comments before we end our meeting?
Yeah, I have some.
Sure, go ahead.
I would just like to say Godspeed and God bless to the Toho High School, who will be going to Grapevine, Texas, for a graphic design program, to the OTEC students who will be going to Atlanta, Georgia for Skills USA, and the Gateway High School JROTC, who will be heading to Molina, Georgia. So be careful, guys. Good luck with what you're doing. Hope you have a safe trip. And then I also want to mention, again, I just want to highlight the fact that when we talk about the differences between what we do that's ministerial or what we do that's policy-driven, we need to be really careful, because if we have hypocrisies in our policy, we're going to pay for those things. I've said it many times, a sloppy policy always has bad results. So when we have things that when we have systems in place to protect students from one aspect, pornography, for example, and then we're not doing what we can to protect that on the inside of our libraries, for example, then we're just showing that we don't want to do it. And it's not about a political thing. It's if the whole world has established that something is bad, and then we're making exceptions because we want to have a partisan aspect to it, or we want to have an aspect that has nothing to do with education, that's a bad act. And I think that we need to avoid that. When we're talking about policy, we're talking about policy to protect the kids and to serve the community of this county. We're not talking about preserving the bureaucracy of the school districts. We're not talking about preserving the people's reputations here. We're talking about serving the community and protecting these kids. And I think that when we have, I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's very clear, if we have software, for example, that protects kids from doing X, Y, and Z, and then we say that X, Y, and Z is okay over here, it's not because we're trying to protect our kids. There's a whole other set of reasons for it, and I think that we need to avoid those. At some point in the near future, we need to come back and start talking about the policy that the community really wants in this community, and that's best done outside of an echo chamber. And I think that in the near future here, I'm going to come back to the board with some policy ideas. Not that I expect them to become approved, right? Because obviously it's very hard to get anything approved here, but I would expect that everyone comes with a good faith effort to actually protect our kids from what we know is widely accepted as dangerous for kids and not good for kids in our school district. And that's all I got.
Thank you. All right, with no other comments, this meeting is adjourned.